Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
5:11, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Lowe's. Holiday hosting starts at Lowe's. Get 35% off select major appliances, plus save an additional $75 on select cooking appliances, $899 or more, valid through 10/16 while supplies last. Selection varies by location, of course. Appliance savings vary based on your purchase amount, and exclusions, as always, do apply. See Lowe's.com for any details. Stop and go traffic. I-80 road work blocking 2 left lanes. They're pulling it out of your way westbound, Oak Park Avenue to 80th. Tri-State, bad accident, 2 right lanes blocked southbound side of 294 between the Hinsdale Oasis to right before Plainfield Road. Dan Ryan's stop and go inbound due to an accident in the right lane between 51st and 47th. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy starts next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Sunshine, a very nice day. A high today at 73, mainly clear tonight, and a low 53. Clouds and sun, warm day tomorrow, the high near 80. Clouds, sun, not as warm on Friday. High Friday afternoon, 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Cloudy and 53 at O'Hare, 54 Midway, 45 in Aurora, 49 in Waukegan, 48 DuPage Airport, 46 in Kankakee, 58 Lakefront. Your next news update, 5:30. Chicago's Morning Answer starts next on AM 560, The Answer.
We know what a woman is. And at Natural Womanhood, we believe that a woman's fertility is beautiful, powerful, and healthy, not something to be controlled or destroyed by doctors and big pharma. Women deserve better. Women deserve to know and claim the uniqueness of their natural female bodies. Women deserve access to authentic, holistic, and restorative reproductive health solutions. Women deserve to know they have real solutions beyond birth control for treating menstrual cycles issues or for family planning. Options without harmful side effects. Natural Womanhood produces high-quality, informative articles, podcasts, and videos to empower women to know and love their bodies. Find evidence-based information about birth control issues and alternatives, cycle issues like endometriosis, infertility, IVF, and more. Break free from big pharma. Get healthier, learn how to work with your doctor to diagnose and treat cycle issues, or learn how to start conversations with resources from Natural Womanhood. Access the latest articles and podcasts, or even get a free consultation at naturalwomanhood.org. Visit naturalwomanhood.org today.
I have done in my career literally thousands of joint replacements.
Meet Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, National Medical Director at QC Kinetics, an acclaimed orthopedic surgeon who now advises patients try all they can do to avoid the knife and consider regenerative medicine.
I myself was able to continue skiing for 10 years after my knees started to be a problem because I accessed regenerative medicine.
Now, after 20 years of study, research, teaching, publications, and clinical experience, Dr. Scheinkup is regarded as one of America's true pioneers.
This is the future of medicine.
Dr. Scheinkup came to QC Kinetics after seeing what they were doing around the country, helping tens of thousands of patients get lasting relief from joint pain with no surgery and no drugs.
QC is so far ahead of the game in its science, its protocols, its people, its facilities.
Call now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Your local State Farm agent Anthony DeGrotto combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. You can combine your home, auto, and life insurance to not only save you money, but give you the peace of mind you've been looking for. Anthony DeGrotto is your go-to agent in Chicagoland. He and his team will work for you to provide the best service you expect at the price you want. Combine your home, auto, and life insurance today. Anthony DeGrotto will help you mix and match things perfectly. His State Farm office is a top pick 2024 Daily Herald Reader's Choice Award winner. He's a proud supporter of Tunnel to Towers and like-minded as you. His State Farm agency is currently looking to add members at their Roselle office. Call Anthony at 847-895-1500 today or visit DeGrottoSF.com. That's DeGrottoSF.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trucking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
This is Carol Platt Liebau for Townhall.com. This November, our First Amendment right to free speech is on the ballot. At a World Economic Forum panel last week, former Secretary of State John Kerry said the quiet part out loud. He hates the free speech social media allows. Here's what he said.
They're putting out disinformation. Our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
Kerry's not alone. For elites, free speech is a problem because it makes it impossible for them to impose their narrative on the rest of us. Kamala Harris shares Kerry's contempt for the First Amendment. Her deputy campaign manager worked for Biden, forcing social media companies to censor COVID information. As Attorney General of California, she lobbied the then CEO of Twitter to kick Donald Trump off the platform. Remember, the freedom to speak is the freedom to think, and vote accordingly.
I'm worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there every day this week, helping her navigate the stairs, cooking meals, reminding her to take her medicine. I'm always nervous when I leave.
You know what? I admire you for taking care of Mom. But your family needs you too. And what if she slips and falls? A friend recommended the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. They service Cook, DuPage, Kane, and Will counties. They guarantee compatibility and they'll conduct a free safety assessment of her home. Plus, they'll provide as little or as much care as Mom needs.
Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, offering both hourly and live-in care. Schedule a free assessment today by calling 331-281-0728. That's 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So what did you think of last night's VP debate? For those who made the time to watch it, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. One of the thematics that Vance pushed all night, which I think was effective, was just reminding people that it's Tim Walz's running mate who is in office right now, not his.
And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure.
And this was right from the gate, the first question being about Iran, given the ballistic missile strikes they launched against Israel yesterday, and talking about, well, let's see, what did President Trump do with respect to Iran? He queered the nuclear deal, the pathway to nuclearization. The question started with Iran is a couple of weeks away from having nuclear weapons. And Vance's point was, so on whose watch have they gotten this much closer? Right. Combined with all of the money that has been drop-shipped and unfrozen, essentially, combined with the energy policy that has enriched Iran as it has Russia, as it has Venezuela, in other words, America's enemies.
Yeah, and the sanctions were dropped once they got in office.
And compare that to President Trump's record of taking out Soleimani, top general, the commander of the Quds Force, as well as negotiating, essentially brokering peace deals between our major ally in the region, that would be Israel, and Muslim-majority countries. So, and this was the predicate to say, your running mate is in office, not mine. And this was something that he repeated, I think, as I said, effectively all night, just to remind people that if you don't like where the country is headed, if the policies of the last 3.5 years have not improved your quality of life, well, it's Kamala Harris who's in office, who is backstopping, cheerleading everything that Joe Biden said. In addition to that, which a point he didn't make as forcefully as he could have, in addition to that, don't pretend that she's only second in command and she just has to do the bidding of the president because he's the policymaker. We don't call it the Pence years. We call it the Trump years. Yeah, I got it. But prior to her being vice president, when she was running for president, and prior to that, when she was senator from California, and prior to that, when she was attorney general of California, and prior to that, when she was San Francisco DA, she supported all of the same policies that you saw this administration enact. So again, if you don't find yourself in a better place than you were 4 years ago, if you don't think America is in a better place than it was 4 years ago, well, then let's go back to the future.
One of the highlights for me, and I don't know about you guys, we'd love to hear from you, 312-642-5600, the best summary of why we should vote for Trump. Because normally the vice president, that role, not that important. But look at what happens, Dan, in the last 3 months with the elevation of Kamala Harris. Yes, they are just one heartbeat away.
Honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
Well, that was another illustration of reminding people who is responsible for where America finds itself, that this is not somebody who just showed up on the political scene as they're sort of presenting her, and as Walz tried to present her, going back to the problems of today being all Trump's fault. And again, the idea that 3.5 years is not enough of a probationary period, or it's not enough time to undo all the damage that Trump did. Let's start from the premise that he did all this damage that you say. Well, wasn't your promise that you were going to bring America to a better place by undoing it? You had a term to do it. Is America in a better place? And that's the point that Vance kept making all night, I think, effectively.
312-642-5600. You can also text us on that very same line.
Just generally speaking on the debate, I think Vance was about what I expected he would be. I mean, I know that a lot of the press coverage is he exceeded expectations. Well, because they have a caricature of J.D. Vance that is inaccurate. He is a sharp guy. He is poised. You saw him demonstrate both of those qualities yesterday. The only thing I would say, and by the way, for the kids listening at home, J.D. Vance is also a good example of it pays to do your homework.
Right, exactly.
But
he's everything Americans should strive for. Just because his upbringing and then how. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But the one thing I would say is he was too conciliatory. There were too many times that he was agreeing with what I thought was an oafish Bolshevik. He sure agrees a lot with Tim Walz about what they're trying to do. He sure gives Tim Walz and to some extent Kamala the benefit of the doubt in terms of their good intentions. And in point of fact, I understand what he's trying to do, and I understand he wants to come across as congenial and open to working with people he disagrees. I understand the market positioning here. But I think it was too much. And I think you need to present Kamala and Tim Walz not just as responsible for what has happened over the last 3.5 years, Kamala Harris, but also that they have policies that are going to exacerbate, not ameliorate, the problems that Americans are facing.
Well, a win for Tim Walz was for him not to lose his temper, which he didn't do. But he got destroyed, and there's so much we'll go through between now and the end of the show. But I think J.D. Vance owned him. I really did. And then at the end, did you see at the end when the wives came up? Walz looked old and frumpy, and J.D. Vance looked like presidential, royal, when his wife looked gorgeous. And they just, that moment, I'm like, yep, he won. There's no question.
Matt, Mount Greenwood, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Yeah, we watched the entire debate. I thought that if you didn't know Tim Walz lies, people could come to him. He looked pretty wishy-washy up there. He looked frustrated when Vance was just pretty stoic. I agree he was too conciliatory to Walz and Kamala, but I thought that at the end, two things. Tiananmen Square answer was laughable. He looked like a deer in the headlights when he realized he got caught. And lastly, one of the last things they debated on was freedom of speech. And I thought that was very effective at the end of it. So thanks for your time.
Thanks for the call, Matt. The Tiananmen Square moment, we told you that story yesterday, that he lied and has been lying about his time in China, that he was there during the freedom protests in Tiananmen Square, when it's pretty well documented, including by NPR Minnesota, that he wasn't. So he was called on that as sort of a proxy, at least from Margaret Brennan's perspective, who asked the question, sort of a proxy for all of the prevarications and fabulous tales Tim Walz has told about himself. And
so painful.
Yeah, that was not a great moment for him.
Cringy. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17.
Growing up in a town of 400, that's service?
And then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth
a Communist
to China.
Party
The
recruiter.
issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything, many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
The Chinese Communist Party is going to need a better Manchurian candidate. At 5:38, we'll continue taking your calls, debate reaction, and play some more of the highlights and Tim Walz's lowlights. 5:38.
And the mainstream media responds. I think they're going to lose their minds over the MSNBC. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
It's 5:32. President Biden says his top priority is getting areas impacted by Hurricane Helene the help and support they need. Helene has killed more than 150 people in the southeast.
Over a third of the people killed were in Asheville, North Carolina, and rescuers there are still looking for missing people in the mountain city. The number of people missing is unclear, with power out and a reported 90% of cell phone service still out. Flooding in Asheville and other parts of Buncombe County and western North Carolina is described as being at biblical levels. I'm Mark Mayfield.
J.D. Vance says the U.S. has to stop the bleeding at the southern border during the Tuesday debate hosted by CBS News and heard right here on AM 560. Republican VP nominee Vance saying Donald Trump will start by deporting criminal migrants.
You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations.
Tim Walz responded by touting Vice President Harris's record as California's Attorney General. Vance countering, saying Harris does have a track record when it comes to dealing with gangs in the border.
Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state and a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions.
Walz adding Democrats did have a border bill, but claimed former President Trump told Republicans to vote no. The Biden administration is supporting U.S. dock workers on day 2 of a major union strike by longshoremen. It entered its second day Wednesday, blocking everything from food to vehicles at ports from Maine to Texas. Iran warning Israel against responding to the missile attack it launched today. In a post, the Iranian mission to the UN said if Israel responds, another, quote, crushing response, end quote, will follow. No reports of injuries or damage after a magnitude 4.0 earthquake shook Fresno County, California. Police and scientists are working to identify bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in Wheatfield, Indiana. The investigation continues. A suspect has denied knowledge of any incident. However, an undocumented child in that family's care was taken by police. Chicago police are investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. The incident happened yesterday at the 95th Dan Ryan stop in the Roseland neighborhood. And a 14-year-old wounded following a shooting on the south side. It happened last night in the 7800 block of South Marshfield Avenue. Blackhawks surrender 5 goals in the second in a 7-2 preseason loss to the Minnesota Wild at the X in St. Paul. The news, a service of Balance of Nature fruits and veggies in a capsule. Save 35% off your first preferred order with promo code Chicago. Order online at balanceofnature.com. Use coupon code Chicago to save 35% as a preferred customer. Offer ends soon. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Dan Proft here for Northridge Prep. Northridge Prep is a great place to be a boy. What does that mean exactly? In short, it's thanks to a foundation of an all-boys environment that builds your son up into a man of intellect and character who loves God. The teachers and faculty members become mentors to students. And when you combine that with an atmosphere that's fun, competitive, and challenging, it creates an exceptional experience for your son. And the result is that the boys just love Northridge. They've been educating boys for nearly 50 years. And one of the things that stands out to me is their commitment to partnering with parents. Now, you hear this a lot with schools, but at Northridge, the parents can't stop talking about it. They built a community that really works together. Raising kids is difficult these days, and at Northridge, you can be confident your son is on the right path. They're having an open house on Sunday, October 20th, for boys in grades 6 through 12. Register today at northridgeprep.org. Again, that's Sunday, October 20th. Register at northridgeprep.org.
Is thinning hair or a receding hairline making you self-conscious? Try Hair Grow from New Nordic. Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start feeling your best with Hair Grow.
538 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify, AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Kennedy ramping up early, 25 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Inbound Ike accident on the inbound off-ramp to Harlem Avenue. Stevenson slowing things up inbound between the Veterans, I-355 and Route 83. You've got construction cleanup. Delays with ongoing road work on I-55 in Will County. Southbound between Black Road and 52, two left-hand lanes are closed. Tri-State accident, 294 southbound between 47th and Plainfield Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Brilliant sunny day today, high 73, clear and 53 overnight. Warm, high near 80 tomorrow. 53 at O'Hare, 45 in Aurora, 48 DuPage Airport. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy talking about last night's VP debate between J.D. Vance and Field Marshal Tim. Speaking of the Field Marshal, so there was sort of this exchange late on in the debate about threats to our democracy, a favorite phrase of our political discourse today, thanks to the D.C. press corps that shares a brain. And so it was J6 versus the First Amendment, basically. And I thought Vance did a pretty good job of responding to the customary J6 agitprop you hear from oafish Bolsheviks like Tim Walz.
Adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret? Senator Vance, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
Not bad. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Just in framing the other piece of this, Vance pivoting from the J6 obsession of both the moderators and Tim Walz and the entire press corps and the Democrat Socialist Party they serve, the real threat to democracy that Vance identified during this portion of the debate.
Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president, Donald Trump left the White House, and now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years.
I agree with them about that. We've talked a lot about that on this show, and it was a nice pivot because it moved the conversation away from January 6th sawing of sawdust and to this present and, well, this clear and present danger, to borrow a Tom Clancyism, because they continue talking about it. And it provided Vance the opportunity to further develop this issue, including folding in what Tim Walz has said. Don't forget what Tim Walz has said. He has a misinformation exception to the First Amendment, remember?
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation.
So that's what he said. And, of course, Vance knew that he said that. And so this is the riff that Vance went on.
But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Oh my God. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah, that was good. But so Tim Walz is saying, trying to conflate speech that is not speech, that is conduct, fire in a crowded theater. Okay, Oliver Wendell Holmes. With what you heard him say, you heard him mutter when Walz was speaking, hate speech and other such categories of misinformation.
Yeah, but who determines what hate speech is?
Well, Tim Walz does, and that's the point that
John Kerry.
That's the point that J.D. Vance should have made. You have John Kerry's another example. Many examples. Bill Gates.
Yesterday, Bill Gates.
Hillary
Clinton.
Bill Gates talking about restricting free speech over, people that oppose, for example, COVID vaccine mandates.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. should, have rules? And then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules? Because you have billions of activity and, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done.
Right. And a good example of more conflation, inciting violence or discouraging people from taking the COVID vaccine. That's tantamount to inciting violence? Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. This is important. And I wish Vance would have stuck on this a little bit more. When Walz offered this fire in a crowded theater or hate speech, to say, look, Tim, your position, your fascistic position is misinformation. There's a misinformation exception to the First Amendment, and you decide what misinformation is. Well, it's hate speech, JD. Well, you decide what's hate speech. Right. And he also, because Walz, again, used the standard misdirection ploy of the left, the real threat to free expression, real threat to First Amendment rights going on in this country right now is the book banning by the right. And he should have taken the time to debunk that as well. That removing pornography from public school libraries is not censorship. It is not book banning. And explain that. We're not saying that things that we disagree with or things that we find inappropriate for children cannot be published. We're not banning them. There's no prohibition against their existence, but there are time, place, and manner restrictions that are consistent with First Amendment principles, Tim. And you might want to learn about those because you seem to be very confused about what is and what is not protected under the First Amendment, and so does your entire party, including your running mate, Kamala Harris. I just thought it's so important. If this is a threat to our democracy, which it is, if it's a threat to the republic, which it is, the infringement on people's First Amendment and Second Amendment and Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment rights, but First Amendment here focused on this. Same thing with them wanting to sanction, as you heard from John Kerry, which media outlets can and can't publish, because we've got media outlets that are engaged in whatever they determine is misinformation. And of course, that's a threat to our democracy. If this is so important, then take the time, to hell with the moderators, take the time to use whatever time they give you, regardless of the questions they ask, to develop this more and to really expose the fascistic tendencies of this ticket, talking about Harrison Walz and their party.
And remember, too, Tim Walz called himself a knucklehead. We didn't do it. He did it, and said that I talk a lot and get caught up in the rhetoric. I mean, he's just a big buffoon.
Yeah.
He is the reason why Kamala Harris should not be president, because the first decision she made as your presidential, Democratic nominee was to choose that guy.
She's a knucklehead too. The knucklehead thing that Tim Walz does is for the according to Jim electorate. Jim, you did it again. I'm just this gregarious Coach Walz, and I run my mouth sometimes, and I misstate some things. I'm not the smartest, sharpest knife in the drawer, but I'm a good old. And unfortunately, going back to J.D. Vance being too conciliatory, giving him too much room and not coming at him on things like the First Amendment, he came across as much more campy and coachy than he actually is. He's a bad guy. And Kamala Harris is a bad girl. They're bad people, just liars. Like Joe Biden. And, if they present this danger, if they're putting the Republic in a perilous position, then that needs to be addressed straight away. You don't have to be mean-spirited. You don't have to yell, but you can be pointed. And you can, as I said, methodically deconstruct the misdirection ploys and agitprop that they produced. JD did a lot better job than Trump did, but it could have still been better yet.
As Scott Jennings said, Tim Walz walked into the wrong bar last night.
Okay. Bob in Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for taking my call. JD did a good job, but he missed many opportunities to come back with fact checks on Walz. One of the ones that I caught was stop with the Project 2025 as but one example. Thanks for airing this last segment with regards to censorship. That one really caught my attention. And but again, as you pointed out, Vance missed opportunities to come back with examples of the censorship of the media, social media, and examples of fake news. And should I go here and flash back with Russia, and other examples?
Thanks for the call, Bob. I mean, I don't want to be too critical on J.D. Vance because I think he largely accomplished what he rightly set out to do yesterday. And he did a very good job, much better job again than Trump did, of presenting Trump as a pragmatic problem solver, going back to explaining for Trump what Trump couldn't explain for himself. So, I mean, overall, I give J.D. Vance very high marks. But there were these opportunities where he has the talent and capacity to be sharper and more devastating to the arguments being promulgated by the left and those who are promulgating them. And he just missed them. There's one with the moderators, too, on immigration, which we'll get to as well. Marty in Naperville.
Hey, good morning. Great show as usual. Couple things. Number one, when they were talking about the insurrection, one of Walz's last comments was some officers were beat with American flags and then later died, which wasn't true. Number two, they always go after Trump and not paying his taxes. I'm a business owner, albeit nowhere near Trump, but I don't know what kind of taxes I pay. If I don't pay them, I get a letter, I give it to my accountant, and he pays them. Trump has no idea what taxes he pays, but as he told Hillary 4 years ago, I pay what you set up I pay. So they always come with the Trump never pays his taxes routine. Try not paying your taxes and see what happens. Trump has accountants that do that. I'm a small businessman. I have an accountant that does it. I don't know what kind of taxes I pay. But and then wasn't Tiananmen Square, wasn't that in Beijing? They kept talking about Hong Kong. Maybe I'm wrong, but the whole thing, the guy's a buffoon. So
Thanks for the call, Marty.
And the left said he embellishes. No, he lied to make up for all that he lacks.
Keith in Morton Grove.
Morning, Dan, Amy. Thanks for taking my call. So if JD and Trump are going to have immigration as one of their top topics, I think that they should state that when the bill was in the Senate that Republicans weren't the only ones that didn't vote for that bill. I know it was a broader bill for public aid in Israel and Indo-Pac area and other such, but when it was a standalone bill, they didn't vote it either. And I don't know, I just think that they should state what, how it's going to work and how they can make it work between both parties. And JD's kind of like the superintendent at the high school, and Walls is like the PE teacher. I love the PE teachers, but they're not the smartest ones in the high school, if you know what I mean.
That's a pretty good metaphor, actually. Yeah, thanks. He's the school superintendent, and Walsh is the gym coach. Creepy gym coach, too. Yeah. Tony, Southside.
Good morning, Amy Lamb and Dan. Hey, I want you guys to help me.
Tony, you have to talk into your phone so we can hear you.
Hold on a second, brother.
All right, sure.
It's getting better.
Bluetooth.
Okay, how about now?
Better.
There we go. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is my crappy headset. Should get a new one. Listen, I want to know if you guys can clarify something for me here. Was Tim Walz running for vice president, or was he running for Minnesota mayor or Minnesota governor? Because he spent more time talking about Minnesota that nobody cares about. I mean, it was ridiculous. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
There was a lot. Thanks for the call, Tony. Yeah, there was. Well, and Minnesota is whatever, has the best health care and so on and so forth. But I think he's trying to put forward a record of the main job of both candidates is to advance the position of their presidential running mates, right?
Their boss.
But part of it is to say, I have my own record of accomplishment. I belong on this ticket. You don't know about it, but I've done a good job as an executive in Minnesota. And so just so you know, you should have confidence in the ticket. So, you have to spend a little time sort of polishing your own apple a little bit because people don't know. So many people don't know the record. They don't even
know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's less
He
and less
introduced
so.
himself to millions of Americans yesterday, and I don't think he did a good job. And I know he didn't lose his temper, but the cutaway shots of him, where he's staring, Dan, did you see him? And he looked mad, and then he looked to the side. Like, you want that guy in a situation room? He can't control himself. He's so goofy.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Exercise and a healthy diet can help, but that can be hard, especially as we start to get older. It's like the choice between taking the stairs or waiting for the elevator. Sometimes the easier option can be tempting. But just like choosing to take the stairs, you can choose to get a variety of 31 whole fruit and vegetable ingredients. Balance of Nature supplements are formulated from the best ingredients available, and it's as easy as taking 3 fruits and 3 veggies capsules every day. It's a small commitment, but it can help you feel your best. Start your journey with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds in conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel. Home to the biggest shows on TV, like Dennis Prager, weekdays at noon Eastern, followed by Jay and Jordan Sekulow at 2. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free now on Zumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Zumo.
AM 560, The Answer.
Real quick text message. Dan and Amy, is it just me or is Walls a stunt double for Don Rickles?
Minus the funny, but yeah, I see a little bit of the physical similarities. Yeah.
And the hand gestures and the kicking. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:06, we do need to get to the moment in the debate where J.D. Vance's mic got cut off for daring to cross Margaret Brennan in Q&A. That's at 6:06.
And the mainstream media losing their mind, realizing that J.D. Vance won. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
Bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in northwest Indiana, and 2 women attacked at a CTA Red Line station. WIND Chicago News Time, 6.
It may be the last debate before the presidential election. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And Vice President Harris's running mate Tim Walz asked former President Trump's VP pick J.D. Vance.
He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind?
They also sparred over the economy.
Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens.
Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share.
Abortion rights, another big issue, with Walz critical of Republican-led states with abortion bans.
These are women's decisions to make about their health care decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this.
I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies.
But for the most part of the CBS News vice presidential debate, the two were civil and it did not get heated.
And at one point, they even shared a moment of empathy about gun violence. But the border and immigration was a major talking point. Vance saying a lot of what can help the issues at the border start with law enforcement. Walz, on the other hand, seemed to blame Trump instead of lining out how he would solve the problem.
Fox's Ashley Strohmeyer. Vance and Walz both pledged their support for Israel as it and Hezbollah keep attacking each other the day after Iran's attack.
Israel today is assessing the damage following a large-scale ballistic missile attack overnight that was launched by Iran. More than 180 missiles soaring through the skies of this country. Some of them were intercepted, others slamming into the ground below.
Fox's Trey Ingston, Haifa, Israel, where there were no deaths, though a terror attack in Tel Aviv left 7 dead.
Overnight, the Israeli Security Cabinet gathered to discuss what the Israeli response would be to this attack. Reports indicate it will be significant.
Crews keep searching for people still unaccounted for in Helene's devastation. The hurricane blamed for at least 161 deaths. President Biden will tour damaged areas of North Carolina today. America's listening to Fox News.
6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Police and scientists are working to identify bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in Wheatfield, Indiana. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says that discovery was made Monday after authorities began investigating a report last month that an individual confessed to killing 2 undocumented children and burning bodies in a backyard fire pit. Chicago police are investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. The incident happened yesterday at 95th and the Dan Ryan. A 14-year-old boy badly hurt following a shooting on the South Side. Police say the teen was found shot last night in the 7800 block of South Marshfield. That child in critical condition. No arrests have been made. Chicago police are increasing security at places of worship while protesters continue their calls for a ceasefire in the Middle East Tuesday night. Protesters tied to the Palestinian Community Network gathered on Federal Plaza, then marched to the Israeli consulate.
We need to stop this madness. We need a ceasefire and an end to genocide.
Consul General of Israel to the Midwest, Yanam Cohen, condemned the Iranian missile attack and promised Israel will respond.
And the intentions were very severe, and Israel is going to respond strongly to this attack.
Chicago police saying right now there are no specific threats against synagogues, but with high holy days for the Jewish community around the corner, they are ramping up their presence. Blackhawks surrender 5 goals in the second period in a 7-2 preseason loss to the Wild at the X, while the Fire aim to avoid a fourth winless match in a row when they visit Charlotte tonight. The news service of Quick Delivery Service. Visit quickdelivery.com now when you need same-day delivery of your routes, ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com right now to schedule your delivery. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Executive Green Carpet Cleaning, and by Valdecast Windows and Doors. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, I'm Ben Barzita with Pearsall Financial Group of Apollon and host of Chicago's Real Money Pros. Did you know that careless titling of beneficiaries on retirement accounts, such as IRAs, can undermine even the most well-designed estate plan, causing your assets to go to the wrong person at your death? Did you also know that different tax rules apply to different types of beneficiaries? For example, the tax rules that apply to using your spouse as a beneficiary are different from the tax rules for using your children as beneficiaries. Tune in to Chicago's Real Money Pros, where we talk about proper beneficiary planning and much, much more. Visit our website at chicagosrealmoneypros.com, where you can sign up for our workshops and access financial content. And use our Ask the Experts feature to get your financial questions answered by a true fiduciary advisor. That's chicagosrealmoneypros.com.
Investment advisory services are offered by Apollon Wealth Management, LLC.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax-advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Oh, I love it. I'm 83 years old, and it has helped me.
Everything was okay. I feel better. I just turned 90, so I'm doing real good.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You know, some guys tell me, oh, that's psychological, man. I said, let me tell you something. I don't care what it is. It's working.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Del Bacchio Marchetti Group of At Properties, Christie's International Real Estate, experts in the northwest suburbs and Chicago with over $800 million in sales. Call 708-828-0000. Inbound Kennedy climbing rapidly right now. 40 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Inbound Ike slows up between Wolf and Oak Park Avenue. An earlier accident has been relocated off the expressway. 48 minutes on the Ike from 390 into the old post office. Construction pickup running late on the inbound Stevenson between I-355 and Cass. So there you have some stop and go traffic. Tri-State cleanup of a much earlier accident continues. 2 right lanes blocked. southbound right before Plainfield Road. Jane Addams just reported vehicle fire on I-90 westbound before Getty Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Sunshine, a very nice day. A high today at 73, mainly clear tonight, and a low 53. Clouds and sun, warm day tomorrow, the high near 80. Clouds, sun, not as warm on Friday. High Friday afternoon, 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
50 at O'Hare, 51 Midway, 41 in Aurora, 45 in Morris. Your next news update is at 6:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. When the debate last night turned to the topic of immigration, J.D. Vance did a nice piece of jujitsu with respect to the question that was asked, the way it was asked. Of course, it focused on the child separation policy, this fiction that the left has created, that the Trump administration was singularly responsible for separating parents from their kids when they came collectively here illegally. Children in cages, Michelle Obama hashtags. Well, this again is sort of the meme mentality of the D.C. press corps. It just lives on after much debunking and a whole host of context. J.D. Vance did a nice job turning this on the moderators and basically all of those who ascribe to sort of that meme mentality when it comes to issues like immigration, because they refuse to confront the horrors of open borders.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a disgrace, and it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim said just doesn't pass the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that she was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Yeah, the real child separation policy is the 320,000 missing kids that have gone missing under this administration. Well done.
One thing that he didn't mention, though, and of the 425,000 are known criminals, 13,000 are rapists, 15,000 are, committed homicides or convicted murderers. He didn't bring that up.
The Walz approach was to, of course, cloak himself in the Emma Lazarus poem and talk essentially of the huddled masses yearning to breathe free in places like Springfield, Ohio, and that we were demonizing Haitians and they have temporary protected status and so forth. This was how Walz responded in part to Tim Walz. He didn't go with the eating the pets. Tim Walz didn't, so J.D. Vance didn't go there either.
Good.
He did this instead.
Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time.
Yeah, it was good, especially what I care about to the American citizens in Springfield, Ohio, having their lives torn asunder. I don't think Tim Walz wants to solve the problem. And that's sort of the excess conciliation that was a feature of Vance's debate performance last night that I've been critical of. I know what he's doing, trying to separate Walz from Kamala. Let's focus on Kamala. Tim's a good guy, and I can get along with him, and we can work together. We have different approaches to get to the same place and all the customary cliches. But no, I don't like it. Tim Walz is
the likable J.D. Vance.
Tim Walz.
Well, I mean,
Tim Walz is not an ally.
No,
he is not an ally with respect to restoring sanity at the border and public safety for American families, and giving the residents of Springfield, Ohio, or Charleroi, Pennsylvania, or Whitewater, Wisconsin, or Fairhope, Alabama, their communities back. He is not an ally.
No, he's a socialist. He's a progressive. He's a Marxist.
So it's inappropriate to cast him as such. I know what he's trying to do, but he was doing a nice job of it. Again, being very room temperature and displaying his intellect and being quite poised. Didn't need it. It serves to advance this phony image of Tim Walz as the sitcom dad. So this kind of conversation continued because, well, the moderators decided to editorialize on the topic. And when they editorialized, J.D. Vance wasn't going to let that go, and he shouldn't have. And this is how that back and forth went.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
we
CBP
want to have
One app has not been on the books. It's
apps back then.
something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining.
That was infuriating.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro text line as well.
That moment, though, made Nicole Wallace on MSNBC say the moderators should have used the F word when that happened.
It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 and no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity is that someone should have said, "Stop it! Stop! Are you effing kidding me?" And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just. This is a debate. This may be the only chance
someone's
people have.
realizing a Trump victory is only 33 days away.
I don't even know what Nicole Wallace was talking about.
She's talking about that the moderators, when J.D. Vance was pushing back, they should have said, dropped an F-bomb. And to stop him.
The question is what J.D. Vance should have done in that moment.
I think what he did was perfect. He explained the situation. He wasn't rude or disrespectful to them, but he was standing his ground. And that's what we want in a vice presidential candidate.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, what do you think?
Rich in Indian Head Park here on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yes, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. I think J.D. Vance is pretty sharp to catch her on trying to fact check him. But one thing I didn't like is they didn't let him continue on to what he had to say about her trying to fact check him. I think they have to let these people that are debating continue to give their answers and not cut them off the way they did. That's really all I have to say.
Yeah, Rich, you're in the neighborhood in terms of what J.D. Vance should have done in that moment. What should J.D. Vance have done when Margaret Brennan did the "we have so much to get to" and cut his mic? What should he have done in that moment? Tom in Blue Island.
Hey, Dan. Good morning. Amy, good morning. Dan, I couldn't agree with you more that I thought J.D. Vance, first of all, I thought he did a great job, but I also thought he was a little more polite with Tim Walz than he needed to be. This guy's as much of a communist and a leftist as any of them are, and hiding under that grandfather facade is a bunch of BS. And to be honest with you, Dan, I thought your argument would have been that you need to do that because of the format and stuff. And so I have to admit I was a little glad to hear that you felt he should have been, maybe a little more combative and maybe a little more
not combative,
direct in addressing what we're up against here. This guy's as bad as they get.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Tom. Not combative, not acerbic, but pointed. Pointed in that moment and other moments. And there's no need to be effusive in the direction of Tim Walz as some sort of, erstwhile ally on a variety of issues. It wasn't just immigration. It was on health care. It was on housing policy. It was on child care. You heard over and over again agreement. He was propping Tim Walz up rather than flooring him. And I think you can floor him while still maintaining decorum and being very polite to all parties, but speaking in no uncertain terms. And pushing back against the moderators, as he started to do when they fact-checked him. That was right.
Okay.
But he shouldn't have stopped there.
Well, what?
Corey and Woodlawn.
Tell us. We want to know, Dan.
Well, I want to hear
it's
people's opinions.
I know.
Dan.
Go ahead, Corey.
I'm very disappointed about all of the fact-checking because it's always one-sided, and it doesn't really add to the debate to me at all. I think if you're serious about a debate, you've got to find somebody that's not partisan. I like J.D. Vance. He's very smooth. He held his own. But I do not like these moderators, so I try to stay away from these debates. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Corey.
You know what pisses me off is that conservative media was completely cut out of the process. We didn't get our hands on anything. Even Fox News, News Nation, nothing.
Well, or even
even having like Hugh Hewitt be a moderator or something from Salem Media. Now, this is the first time that I can remember they completely ignored us, and shame on them.
Yeah, well, first of all, they're beyond shame.
Yeah.
And secondly, this is yet more instruction. This is where things are at. They can get away with ignoring us. And that's what has to change.
Yep.
Pleading with them to be people they are not is a waste of time. So complaining about it is a waste of time. And I'm sick of listening to conservatives complain about it, pretending that there's something to be done with the same personnel and the same mission statement of the same corporate media outlets. It's not going to change by politely asking them to be better or more fair or to include Hugh Hewitt. That's not how it works. So conservatives need to wake up and straighten up about this. And that's why I'm particularly annoyed by J.D. Vance in that moment, because he knows better and he has the talent to have done better. Mark in Greenville.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for taking my call. I think J.D. Vance missed an opportunity at that moment to say, Margaret, this is exactly what I'm talking about with regard to censorship. When our side tries to explain the facts and get into details, you're unwilling to listen to it.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Yeah, that's close, I think. I think that would have been good. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, good morning, Dan and Amy. So, does anyone have any doubt now why Tim Walz's family is picking Donald Trump for president? And then if you look at Kamala Harris's pick for vice president and the qualifications of Tim Walz, just imagine who she's going to pick for cabinet officials. Name me one person on Joe Biden's cabinet that's competent.
Commerce Secretary has no idea about the dock workers strike.
Thanks for the call,
it's,
Glenn.
It's just a bunch of buffoons. If they're not cross-dressing or tranning and stealing women's designer luggage, they're in a powerful position where they don't even know what's going on the ground.
So Margaret Brennan and Nora O'Donnell both kept saying, we have a lot to get to. We have a lot to get to. What about that phrase? What does that phrase convey?
That they want to change the topic.
No, it conveys that they're in charge. We have a lot to get to. This is our forum, and you are here to do our bidding. We have a lot to get to. We have a program, and we're sticking to our program. And in that moment where she cut his mic and then they turned to the economy, I would have, if I was Vance, or I would have liked to have seen Vance say, next time his mic was back on to talk about matters economic. You know, I'm going to go back to that mic, cutting off my mic thing. Margaret, Nora, I have some difficult news to convey to you. You're not in charge of deciding what's important to American families. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and spend as much time as I like, or as you'll give me before cutting my mics, and go ahead, because that'll be instructive to the American people, on talking about what concerns American families and explaining some of the ruses that are used to confuse American families or to leave them in the dark. Because, as we have talked about it in this show, but because, as we know, the residents of places like Springfield, Ohio, get no answers from the federal government. No one knows how thousands of migrants from various countries show up in town, underwritten by the federal government, and to some extent state and local governments in various localities. No one knows how they're there, and then they take over these communities and create all of the havoc that they've created by invitation. I'm not blaming them. And the temporary protected status, your fact-checking of me, Margaret, let's talk about that. And let's talk about the temporary and the temporary protected status. Margaret, since you're fact-checking, Nora, would you like to tell us what the average stay is for a person on temporary protected status? As I said, they're not going through a process to become a citizen like all those queued up. So I will use as much of the time I'm allotted to make sure there is a full airing on this issue, because it has massive impact on a number of Americans who've been victimized by people who shouldn't be in this country, who are dead at the hands of people who shouldn't have been in this country, who are having their homes and livelihoods and communities taken away by people who shouldn't be in this country. I'm going to go ahead and use as much time as I want to explain that. And if you have other questions for me, that's fine, because I'm here to talk to the American people through this forum, and that's what you offered us. That's what you have. This is a chance to air your views so that the American people know where you stand. So I'm taking this opportunity you presented, but remember, this is a mutual agreement. And so if you're not going to hold up your end, then I'm going to hold up my end regardless of what you do. I mean, sitting them down and speaking over them to the American people after the impolite, at minimum, but to be generous, cutting off of his mic, this dismissive treatment of a vice presidential nominee. Why do we stand for that? Robert Bloomingdale.
Yeah, how you doing? I listened to it yesterday. I think J.D. Vance did a very good job on this. And I was listening to Face the Nation on Sunday, and he was on there with Martha Brennan, and she was trying to fact-check him then. And he handled her very, very well, correcting her. And I think he did a very good job on that again that night. So thank you.
But that's why he won, because J.D. Vance is confronting members of the media. He's doing interviews. And even CNN knew that Walz bombed because of that reason.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here
I
on
think
Walz's
that
part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe,
He
yeah.
had so many lines that he was clearly trying to say that he didn't listen and said when J.D. Vance said one of the many things he really hit Kamala Harris on, not Tim Walz, but Kamala Harris, he didn't respond because he clearly had things in his mind. I think the lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media, it showed. He needed more reps.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, J.D. Vance
they
is,
agree. They'll agree because
much
they're sharing
more-
one brain. I mean, why do I care what Jake Tapper and whatever yapping terriers on CNN are saying? I don't care what they say that's critical of Trump and Vance. I certainly don't care what they say that's critical of Walz. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just partisans. They're just partisans who wanted Walz and their base Democrat voters. So they want Walz to, be after J.D. Vance and attacking J.D. Vance. What they don't see, because they're not trained to see it, because they don't care about people that are sort of independent-minded, is how Walz is conveyed versus maybe what the expectations were for Walz. And as I said, J.D. Vance is obviously the superior intellect. But so what? If this was all just about who is the superior intellect, the halls of power would be populated by very different people. This is as much about the feeling and the image you take away from the participants. And this is why I say J.D. Vance was too conciliatory. And I'm not really that interested in, Trump supporting women, thought J.D. Vance, nailed it. Yeah, you're Trump supporting women. Think about the mind's eye of the independent voter that you're trying to appeal to, the soft Democrat you're trying to move. Do you want them to be more or less comfortable with Walz and, by extension, Harris after that debate? You think they care that J.D. Vance is smarter? Candace, Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin.
I totally agree with you, Dan. I was watching it last night, getting a little bit frustrated. But also, I really wish that Vance would have brought up what's going on in North Carolina, kind of like Trump did in his debate, where nobody knew what was going on in Springfield, Ohio. Nobody right now knows what's going on down south, unless you're down south. And he had the opportunity to tell the world, like Trump did, about people eating cats and dogs, which would be shocking. And he could have shocked the nation into actually saying, what is Harris doing for people down there? Absolutely nothing. And why are fire chiefs turning away helicopters trying to save people and telling them they'll be arrested?
Well, thanks for the call, Dennis. I mean, I think this is a fair point. I think even though I think he generally did a good job on immigration, he did. We were talking about this yesterday. Half the country probably has no idea what's going on in Springfield or Charleroi or these other communities because the D.C. Press Corps, they don't cover it, and half the country is not interested in outlets that present viewpoints with which they disagree, unfortunately. So the opportunity was not to just talk about generally communities being overrun and resource-starved, but also specific stories that illustrate the point. Telling stories of back row Americans as someone who came from the back row of America. That would have been a nice feature to tell the story. Go watch it online, America. This woman who tells the story of her mother-in-law's killing at the hands of someone in this country illegally. Go watch it online. Listen to people in Western North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia who are wondering where their government is in this critical time of devastation thanks to Hurricane Helene. It was a little bit more specific, an anecdote or two to generate some interest. Wait, what's going on? Who is this? Maybe I will go online and look at it. More storytelling would have been a nice sort of additional layer that Vance could have added. Coming up at 6:36, speaking of Hurricane Helene, we will update the situation in the southeast, 6:36.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
We're at 6:33, 48 degrees, and rescue teams are still searching for survivors in North Carolina towns devastated by Helene. FEMA rescue teams have finally arrived. They're starting to assist North Carolina National Guards men and women locate stranded people in flooded mountain towns. SpaceX founder Elon Musk has agreed to use dozens of Starlink receivers and terminals to help residents of North Carolina regain some access to the internet. Many residents in the western part of that state have lost their connections. J.D. Vance says the country has to do better when it comes to violence in schools.
We know, unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff.
During last night's vice presidential debate heard right here on AM 560, the CBS debate showcased the candidate saying security must be increased at schools, including more resource officers.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. And I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay. Christ have mercy. It is awful.
Democrat Tim Walz saying as a gun owner, he understands the Second Amendment, but he believes the country's first responsibility is to kids.
We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult.
The Biden administration is backing U.S. dock workers who are making about $147,000 a year on day 2 of a major union strike. Strike by international longshoremen blocking everything from food to vehicle shipments from ports to Maine to Texas. Good Times actor John Amos is dead. Actor John Amos passed away at the age of 84, but it's just now being announced he died of natural causes back on August 21st. Had major roles in Good Times, Mary Tyler Moore Show, Coming to America, and The West Wing. Received an Emmy for his performance in the 1977 ABC miniseries Roots. By the way, Amos also played football at Colorado State and had tryouts and played with the old AFL Chiefs and then the Denver Broncos. Police and scientists are working to identify bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in Wheatfield, Indiana. A suspect tied to that investigation has denied any knowledge of incidents related to that backyard fire pit. Chicago police are investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station yesterday at 95th and the Dan Ryan. And a 14-year-old boy is wounded following a shooting on the South Side. It happened last night. The child was hit by gunfire in the 7800 block of South Marshfield and was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Last night, the Blackhawks surrendered 5 goals in the second period in a 7-2 preseason loss to the Minnesota Wild in St. Paul. Chicago hosts the Wild here on Friday. The news, a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Hot air roasted locally, cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Online at papanicholas.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher reacts to another attempt on Trump's life.
My gosh, if there's not evidence that Donald Trump needs better protection, I don't know what's left. I mean, this is so out of control and so awful for our country, for the American process. We are 50 days away from this election, this historic election.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Your local State Farm agent, Anthony DeGrotto, combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. You can combine your home, auto, and life insurance to not only save you money, but give you the peace of mind you've been looking for. Anthony DeGrotto is your go-to agent in Chicagoland. He and his team will work for you to provide the best service you expect at the price you want. Combine your home, auto, and life insurance today. Anthony DeGrotto will help you mix and match things perfectly. His State Farm office is a top pick 2024 Daily Herald Reader's Choice Award winner. He's a proud supporter of Tunnel to Towers and like-minded as you. His State Farm agency is currently looking to add members at their Roselle office. Call Anthony at 847-895-1500 today or visit DeGrottoSF.com. That's DeGrottoSF.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Attention maintenance coordinators. If you manage an industrial facility, then you know how critical it is to manage a consistent maintenance staff. During outages, when you're short-handed, Vans has your back.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. Whether you need one person for 8 hours or a large crew for a month, we can supplement your maintenance team. Our personnel are trained mechanics familiar with all material handling processes. Our expertise extends to fabricating, sheet metal, millwright, and ironwork jobs. Our men can work alongside your repairmen, or we can provide an entire crew complete with equipment depending on your requirements.
Vans uses only the best and safest union-trained mechanics insured at the highest level to perform the job right. Call 833-VANS-IND to schedule your maintenance team. That's 833-VANS-IND. Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANSindustrial.com. Vans Industrial, working safe since 1964.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only two good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
Is thinning hair or a receding hairline making you self-conscious? Try Hair Grow from New Nordic. Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start feeling your best with Hair Grow.
640, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. This update is service of Judy Justice. A new era begins. She's just getting started. Judy Justice. Check your local listings to watch Judy Justice. It's out now. Inbound Kennedy, 1 hour. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Outbound Kennedy, disabled vehicle. Left lane blocked between the Circle and Lake. Ike, stop and go inbound Wolf to First Avenue. 55 into the old post office. Stevenson jammed up inbound between the Veterans, I-355, and Lamont Road. Bishop Ford accident, hit and run being investigated inbound between Cottage Grove and King Drive. Tri-State, due to a bad accident there being investigated. 2 right lanes are blocked southbound between Roosevelt all the way down to Plainfield Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Nice, sunshine, 73, clear and 53 overnight. Very warm tomorrow, high near 80 and a low of 61 tomorrow night. 48 at O'Hare, 50 at Midway, 41 in Aurora, 43 in Joliet, 44 in Kankakee, 56 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy in the vice presidential debate last night. This is as close as they got to talking about Hurricane Helene and the devastation wrought in the southeast part of this country. Hurricane Helene was used by Nora and Marge as the predicate to talk about climate change.
Of course, because that's how they roll, Dan.
Because
anything to save the planet.
And because, of course, the meme position of the DC media is these natural disasters, these storms that induce natural disasters are becoming more intense and frequent. And as we know from actual research, not done by CBS News, but done by Bjorn Lomborg, for example, at the Copenhagen Consensus Center, that is not the case. It's just not the case. In fact, the storms are getting fewer, although obviously there's some variance over time. And because of improved construction and improved warning systems, actually less devastating, certainly in terms of loss of life. That's what's true, but what's true is not of particular interest to CBS News. Anyway, Vance did a pretty good job of pivoting away from the silliness and being very practical about it, as he did all night. And here was his approach on that issue.
Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening.
Yeah. The comedy between Walz and Vance was insufferable all night. But his recitations on energy policy that were intermittent over the course of the hour and a half debate were pretty good. Vance, that is. There was a fun tweet. This would have been even a better summation, very simple terms, from some woman whose handle is Bossy Leia. Things that help me survive Helene: a gas car, a gas stove, a gas hot water heater, a gas chainsaw, cash. Things that were useless during Helene: electric cars, electric appliances, debit cards, the city bus, the government, diversity, my tax dollars in Ukraine.
It's awesome.
Really good. But don't tell that to those responding to the Hurricane Helene devastation by seizing the opportunity to advance their identity politics. This is something. Jessica Cutts is a reporter for the 19th News, which is named after the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote. That's so this is a real news organization, not an advocacy organization. Yeah,
Go
right.
get my white suit on.
Yeah, 19th News. We put together a list of resources at the 19th News for those looking to donate in the wake of Hurricane Helene. We focus on mutual aid groups and organizations on the ground that are helping LGBTQ plus people and people seeking an abortion. So I just want to understand how that works.
Yeah.
So, I think I do actually understand how that works to some extent, but I'll get to that in a second. So if you come across somebody who's like on top of a roof looking to be rescued, you first have to ask if they are currently interested in an abortion or identify as part of the LGBTQIA+++ community.
What if you give the wrong answer? Sorry, we're going to go get your name.
We're going to
on
have
the
to pass.
street.
Uh-huh.
Maybe if we have time, we'll come back.
But I mean, this is. I mean, it would have been nice to get into some identitarian politics last night. I know we have a lot to get to. I understand.
We got to move on.
Marge and Nora had a lot to get to last night.
I really wanted them to talk about how Minnesota is a sanctuary state for minor trans who want to have their bodies mutilated without their parents' permission. Didn't bring that up. Didn't talk about the war in Ukraine. There's a lot of things that they didn't bring up.
Well, and just the identity politics writ large. I mean, Tim Walz, this is happening in Tim Walz's great state of Minnesota, which he was treating us to, how great it is under Tim Walz. There's a pantry, a food pantry that used a state grant to open. It's called Food Trap Project, designed to help poor and hungry residents living close to Sanctuary Covenant Church in the north part of Minneapolis. It opened in late July, but it's been forced to close and relocate away from church grounds.
Why?
Because it was no honkies need apply. In other words, they were refusing to provide food to honkies. It was a food pantry for persons of color only. These are, the examples of this sort of.
Is that going to be like our Gimme Dat grocery store?
Well, the examples of this sort of identitarian politics, the manifestations of these things are just, and this general ignorance that is extolled by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the entire party are, myriad. And I would have liked to get into this a little bit. All of this, everything is racism. We're revisiting a piece from Andy Horowitz, who's a Colgate University History Department professor. Of course he is. Who argues that disasters like Helene or Katrina, we remember this from Katrina, they're not unpredictable acts or acts of God. They're the result of institutional racism, structural racism. The causes and consequences reach across much larger periods of time and space than we commonly imagine, and so on and so forth. That the deeper structural factors, for example, in New Orleans, left New Orleans vulnerable. The deeper structural factors for a city that has been governed by Democrats for as far as anyone can remember. It's like talking about the deeper structural factors in Chicago that leave persons of color, particularly black residents, behind. Well, that's happening at whose hands? Oh, well, right. This is how they spin every occurrence in the natural world to their identitarian politics. And, this may be a little bit sort of off-center cut when it comes to the issue matrix and what people want to discuss and hear about. But, it's really about the pollution of our culture. And maybe people would have greater appreciation for it if somebody with the ability of J.D. Vance called additional attention to it. Ralph and Rantoul, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for allowing me to talk. Hey, look, when I agree with you earlier about the whole TPS thing, because they clearly cut the mic. I was hoping that when they came back from the break that JD was going to get him on that.
Yes.
And continue to correct it. I was screaming at the radio. I was driving last night. But my point this morning is when they were talking about gun violence and stuff like that, and their various shades of answers, I would have loved if J.D. Vance would have brought up the fact that in Minnesota now, a person has a duty to retreat. Right. That is, in fact, something that has been adjudicated and put forth by the Minnesota Supreme Court. You must have every attempt to escape from a violent situation before a person is allowed to defend himself or herself. So we're going to have people now that are saying, well, wait a minute, how far did you run before you defended yourself? How high was the wall or the fence behind you? How many times did you try to climb over it or get through it? It's ridiculous. So when Tim Walz was talking about, well, his son, unfortunately witnessed this accident, I wish they would have fact-checked that, because the Democrats love making up facts like that, like Biden's grandpa surviving cannibal attacks, right? It would have been wonderful if somebody would have said, and by the way, right, it would have been nice if somebody there would have been able to fight the bad guy, because only a good guy with a gun stop the bad guy with a gun. And even in your own house now, it's possible you can be adjudicated a bad guy defending your own castle. End of rant.
Yeah, very good.
You got to
Ralph. Thanks for the
try
call.
and talk it out. Try and work it out first with the
No.
person that broke into your house.
Well, it's consistent with the larger disposition of that party to take the side of predators over the law-abiding. The incident that Walz recounted, and then Vance said, I didn't know that. It's not surprising he didn't know it because it has not widely been reported that his son Gus was there. But the Star Tribune reports this: the shooting occurred last year outside the Jimmy Lee Recreation Center, January 18th. It was widely reported, the shooting, but Gus Walz's presence wasn't widely reported. However, David Albornoz, who is the St. Paul Parks aquatic supervisor and coach, posted on social media about his friendship with Gus Walz, and he said that Gus Walz was in the building when the shooting occurred in the parking lot at Jimmy Lee, the Jimmy Lee Recreation Center, and he said, I'm quoting his post, Gus, quote, helped keep everyone safe and calm looking after the kids in the gym with us as I rushed out. So, I don't know if that's the full story, but that's what the Minneapolis Star Tribune is reporting about that, well, it wasn't a school shooting, but community center shooting that Walz referenced last night. As to Walz on guns, the larger issue, well, yeah, I mean, they continue to, of course he said, I'm an NRA, the whole kept a shotgun in my car so I could go pheasant hunting after football practice.
Oh, all-American guy.
Yeah, I know.
What?
But but of course, I mean, this isn't just about assault weapon bans, which of course he now supports after having opposed them when he was representing a rural congressional district in Minneapolis. But it's also a reminder, got to go to the Kamala vault here, that Kamala supports gun confiscation, and she always has. That's what mandatory buybacks are.
Right.
Mandatory means confiscation.
No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns.
We do need an assault weapons ban.
I do believe that we need to do buybacks. I support buybacks.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
We want to ban assault weapons. We need an assault weapons ban.
We need reasonable gun safety laws in this country, starting with universal background checks and a renewal of the assault weapon ban.
Congress needs to have the courage to act and renew the assault weapons ban.
I'm also in favor of the assault weapons ban, of universal background checks, red flag laws.
So it's clear that we must renew the assault weapons ban.
Demanding, as we all do, red flag laws, universal background checks, and a renewal of the assault weapons ban.
The other thing about the red flag laws that they talk about so generally is for an officer of the court, she really is very unconcerned about any potential infringements on people's constitutional rights. For example, red flag laws need to they need to ensure that there is the opportunity for the target to have his day in court, that these are not processes that are violative of due process of Fifth and 14th Amendment rights, because some versions of red flag laws that have been proposed would definitely be. But I mean, these are the nuances that are not particularly interesting to charlatans like Harris and Walz, of course. Joe in East Dundee.
And Amy, yeah, I voted. And it was kind of a line. I watched the debate, and Margaret and Nora kind of came off to me as angry women. I don't, why is it that the liberals always get these debates? You can't have one conservative, one liberal on the panel. I mean,
right. Thanks.
It's
for
over.
I don't know why they would do.
Debate
Thanks for the
season's
call,
over.
Joe.
And they weren't part of it.
Tim Walz also, just on the gun issue too, I don't want to miss this. Tim Walz also had a little bit of a slip of the tongue, I'm assuming.
So I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to
I think they were talking about mental health in part, which was a fine discussion, actually. But I don't know. It's one of those things where I think he meant to say I've become friends with school shooters' parents.
Right. Family victims of school shootings or parents? Or
No, I don't. He talked about Sandy Hook parents that he met with as a member of Congress, but then I think he was like the parents of school shooters, like in the context of trying to understand these mental health issues. I think that's what he meant. I don't know, but I don't know if you say I become friends with school shooters. I mean, if you hear those words come out of your mouth, don't you catch yourself?
Yeah.
I'm always interested when people like say something and it's like, oh, it's a slip of the tongue, it's a mistake. But did you not hear what you said?
Well, he was so rehearsed. He was so nervous and uncomfortable in his skin. And I got to tell you, the whole time I kept thinking, he cannot wait for this debate to be over.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's what he thinks, and I don't think that's what the Harris and Walz team thinks, and I don't think that's what their supporters think, and that's why I don't think this is going to change much, other than perhaps improve the standing of J.D. Vance a little bit. But we'll get what Noel Rothman thinks at 7:07. Senior writer at National Review, Noel Rothman, 7:07.
But first, let's stop by that newsroom once again. Here's Mike Scott.
2 women attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. A teen is charged in the deadly shooting of a postal worker. Female found dead inside of a West Side home, and a Chicago lab owner pleads guilty to millions of dollars in COVID-19 fraud. Blackhawks on the ice last night, losing to the Wild. Fire are visiting Charlotte tonight, and a sunny day ahead in your forecast. WIND Chicago News Times, 7.
It was a cool, calm clash. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. J.D. Vance and Tim Walz were mostly civil to each other in the CBS News vice presidential debate, taking aim at the top of the ticket with Vice President Harris's running mate calling the former president a threat to democracy.
And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election.
Vance fired back.
Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment.
And Vance said the vice president is to blame for inflation and record illegal immigration.
Drive the cost of food higher by 25%. Drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%. Open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable.
But Walz says when it comes to national security,
it's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous.
Israel and Hezbollah keep battling. More bombings and rocket attacks in and out of Lebanon today, where one Israeli soldier has been killed, as Israel also plans a response to Iran's missile barrage.
We do know that Israel's advanced missile defense system, the Arrow 3, engaged some of the targets working to take down the fire, but video circulating online shows significant impacts and craters caused by the missiles. One Palestinian man was killed in the West Bank and 2 Israelis were injured. The Iranians say they used new Fatah hypersonic missiles and were responding to the killing of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh.
Fox's Trey Hinks in Haifa, Israel, where there was also a terror attack, killing 7 people in Tel Aviv. Hurricane Helene now blamed for at least 161 deaths in 6 states as crews keep searching for more victims. President Biden will get an aerial tour of some of the devastation in North Carolina today. Vice President Harris will assess damage in Georgia days after former President Trump went there to meet victims. America's listening to Fox News.
7:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago police investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. The incident happened yesterday at 95th and the Dan Ryan. One of the victims was slashed in the shoulder this morning. She is in good condition. A 14-year-old boy severely wounded following a shooting on the South Side. Police say that teen was found shot last night in the 7800 block of South Marshfield, rushed to a nearby hospital in critical condition. No arrests have been made. As of Tuesday, 2 more migrant shelters closed in the city of Chicago.
So we're looking into ways how we can partner with other levels of government and also other private partners so that we can make sure that we fulfill those vacancies, working with the state government.
Alderman Byron Sigjo Lopez saying the shelter did its job, and now it's time to address a comprehensive plan to deal with homeless and migrant issues. A 15-year-old boy is charged with the killing of a postal worker on Chicago's far south side. Octavia Redmond was shot to death July 19 near 121st and Harvard. A witness to another recent attack on a postal worker, this time by a relative, says federal workers need more security.
I don't care if it's domestic or what. They need much better security, because if people hadn't intervened, she'd be dead.
The teenage suspect was arrested Monday by the Chicago Police Department and U.S. Marshals in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Blackhawks surrender 5 goals in the second period in a 7-2 preseason loss to the Minnesota Wild at the X. Home field, anything but an advantage in the opening round of baseball's wild card playoffs. Tigers took down the Astros in Houston 3-1. Royals beat the Orioles 1-0, while the Mets blasted the Brewers in Milwaukee 8-4. The Padres, the only team to win at home, securing a 4-0 victory over the Braves. The news, a service of Croscom Public Adjusters. Handling an insurance claim for your home or business is difficult. Croscom will help you maximize your claim and get what you need. They've helped thousands. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka explains why Trump is in danger.
Here are a selection of actual quotes from Democrats in recent months. Daniel Goldman, Congressman, Democrat. He is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated. He needs protection from professionals, and he needs it now.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you have high blood pressure, you have the #1 risk factor for mortality.
Don't be a walking time bomb. Make this change and watch your blood pressure drop.
Order a 120 Life today.
Yes, 120 Life is an amazing blend of superfood juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure.
It's been endorsed by thousands of health professionals and doesn't have the side effects of medication.
It's up to you to control your blood pressure, not Big Pharma.
Seriously, 120 Life could be the natural game changer in your life. Try it yourself risk-free with a 2-week trial pack. You've got nothing to lose but your high blood pressure.
Go to 120life.com and use promo code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
120 Life is so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in just 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied.
Order the 8-ounce drink or powdered mix. From pomegranates to cranberries, it's the delicious way to lower your blood pressure. It really works.
Go to 120life.com now. Use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a 70-year-old man. I'm not a young guy, and I'm an ex-athlete. Well, yeah, when I was taking it, I recognized that I was feeling better. You know what I'm saying? And just mentally knowing is important also.
I am a customer of you guys. I love your product. Love it, love it. Nothing but good things to say about your product. I love it. And as long as y'all don't sell it, I'm going to take it as long as I can.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
At 7:08, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average. To get that smile back, check if you qualify, almostfreeteeth.com. Let's check travel times. 38 minutes in on the Edens, Lake Cook Road to the junction. An hour 7 on the Kennedy O'Hare into the Circle interchange. Stevenson running at an hour 16. In from I-355, the toll road into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Stop and go on the on I-57 and the Bishop Ford. Watch out for an accident investigation inbound between the Stony Island feeder and the Dan Ryan. Tri-State, you've got gapers to a southbound crash impacting northbound 294 between Archer to past Plainfield. Southbounders, you've got that bad accident, 2 right lanes blocked, reportedly a fatal accident and investigation. Southbound between the Reagan, I-88, all the way down to Plainfield Road is your big delay. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Sunshine, a very nice day. A high today at 73, mainly clear tonight, and a low 53. Clouds and sun, warm day tomorrow, the high near 80. Clouds, sun, not as warm on Friday. High Friday afternoon, 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
49 at O'Hare, 50 Midway, 41 in Aurora, 43 Joliet, 45 DuPage Airport, 56 along the lakefront. Your next news update, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The VP debate last night kicked off with a discussion of the Middle East because, well, things are escalating there. You've had a failed Iranian missile attack against Israel just hours before last night's debate.
200 plus ballistic missiles.
And so the discussion was about, who provides the steadier hand when it comes to trying to prevent war and prevent America from additional foreign entanglements. And it also calls to mind the record over the last, say, decade of policy vis-a-vis Iran and Trump versus Joe Obama, the 3 terms of Barack and Joe. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, the animatronic Tony Blinken, on Meet the Press not so long ago, after insisting the weekend before $6 billion was unfrozen, $6 billion in Iranian assets was unfrozen in exchange for the release of 5 American hostages.
Yeah, wasn't he asked, will they be able to use it for terrorist reasons?
The
money, yeah.
He said that Iran was not used, that money was not used to attack Israel. But on Meet the Press, subsequently, he said this.
What do you say about the argument that money is fungible? So Iran may have known this money is coming and used other funds to help fund this attack that happened.
Iran has unfortunately always used and focused its funds on supporting terrorism, on supporting groups like Hamas. And it's done that when there have been sanctions. It's done that when there haven't been sanctions. And it's always prioritized that.
Right, it prioritizes that. So it's curious why you would finance your enemies. And this was the distinction, not quite put in these terms, that I think Vance tried to sketch out. See, we don't finance our enemies, state sponsors of terror like Iran. We take out their top general, as Trump did, Soleimani. We end this sweetheart glide path to nuclearization, and we stop sending them cash, as well as allowing them to ramp up their oil production, which has generated $30 to $40 billion estimated last year to do what Anthony Blinken says that they do, which is prioritize terrorism.
Well, what about the billions Obama sent to Iran before he left office? You know, the pallets of cash.
$400 million in cash.
Yeah.
Total, and then totally, the total was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.3 billion, according to congressional officials who were briefed by the State Department at the time. So, between the Biden and the Obama administrations, Iran has done pretty well. They were doing less well, I think it's fairly safe to say, during the Trump years. And this is sort of what repeats itself, not only how Trump dealt with our main enemy in the Middle East, that would be Iran, but also how he dealt with our main ally in the Middle East, that would be Israel, getting involved in brokering the Abraham Accords, these essentially peace deals between Israel and several majority Arab states. So that's a jumping off point. I mean, I know foreign policy is not as top of mind as what's happening to people's pocketbooks and what's happening at the border and how it is presenting itself across the country. But, as you get closer to America's more substantial involvement, it was mentioned last night, 40,000 troops have been deployed to the Middle East during the Biden years in one capacity or the other, which I'm sure came as a shock to Kamala, who doesn't believe we have any soldiers in harm's way. Anyway, as the drums of war are beaten, people's attention perks up. Noah Rothman, senior writer at National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun, joins us now. Noah, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So what about that exchange to kick off the debate and the underlying substance of the disagreement and distinctions and policy choices by the two parties?
Well, you opened by describing the missile attack yesterday as failed, and I'm not sure that's an accurate portrayal from either Iran's perspective or Israel's. This spectacular, historic volley of ballistic missiles, no country in the history of the planet Earth has fired that many ballistic missiles at one nation or another. And this attack managed to penetrate Israel's air defenses and produce a significant amount of impacts. The fact that it didn't produce casualties along with them is nigh miraculous.
Yeah.
Yes, there was preparation involved. Yes, there was the Israelis managed to detect this attack ahead of time in advance, get everybody to the shelters. For the most part, it's a free country. You don't have to do that. And a lot of people don't. The fact that these impacts were very close to, but not on their targets, like Mossad headquarters, like Israeli Air Force bases, is practically divine and lucky. And we absolutely have to take account of that. And the fact that Israel had experienced this act of war against it is something that it will not accept, and it will retaliate in probably a much more demonstrative fashion than it did in April, when that attack absolutely did fail. The April attack did not penetrate Israeli airspace, with some rare exceptions. So I would say that you have to give Iran credit for reshaping the geopolitical balance in the region in a way that Western powers and Israel cannot accept. And that's where I wished the debate would have gone, because we were in a new world as of yesterday morning after this attack. And the conversation took place in a time before that attack, pretty much on both sides, but for the most part, really, Mr. Waltz had the most maladroit performance there. Because as you said in the intro, and this is what I completely agree with, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Tim Walz, they are flat-footed when it comes to Israel because they don't have a coherent message. They are not saying what I think they believe. They're not articulating the American consensus. They're pandering to a very small, loud minority that doesn't accept the notion that Israel is America's ally in the region, and it's Arab tormentors and the terrorists that harass it and kill Israeli citizens, as they did yesterday with 6 citizens who were shot dead in a cafe.
Yeah.
They don't accept that. Those people reject that notion. They want to recalibrate American geopolitical allegiances in the region. And they're not going to say that. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris aren't going to say that because that's not U.S. policy. But they're also not going to correct these people where they're wrong. So what comes out of Tim Walz's mouth is incoherent blather that makes no sense and seems irrelevant to the topic at hand because he does not know his own mind on the issue. And if he does, he's afraid to say it.
Well, the paradox is the promotion of Israel, sort of pro forma promotion of Israel as our ally, as the victim of a gruesome terrorist attack October 7th of last year, and the right to defend themselves. And then in the same breath, we're talking about the need for de-escalation. Seth Cropsey, who is a former Deputy Undersecretary of the Navy, writing in the Journal, offers this. In the Middle East, the Biden administration provides material to Israel, but it demands Israel accepts a ceasefire in Gaza, portrayed as temporary but inevitably permanent until Hamas violates it again, without attempting to resolve Israel's core security issue or Iran's growing power and malign intentions. As a result, Israel is frozen. Frozen in the minds of the administration. Obviously, Bibi is not accepting that posture.
Yeah, and I agree with that. He's very sharp. And what they're getting at and what the American policy should be in this region is to support Israel's efforts to get at the disease rather than the symptoms. The disease is Iran. Its terrorist proxies, the Houthis, the Hezbollah, Hamas, the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria are all symptoms of that broader malady. The administration is deeply uncomfortable with escalation. It is afraid of escalation anywhere and everywhere. It talks itself out of engaging fully with its own rhetorical commitments to Israel, to Ukraine. If Taiwan were to be invaded tomorrow, the same effect would happen. They're desperately terrified of provoking their adversary, even as their adversary is engaged in provocative behavior themselves. And that's why we see so much escalation over the course of the Biden years, because they paralyze themselves with the frameworks that they talk themselves into. With Ukraine, it's very clear. They say they invent red lines for Russia, and when those red lines are violated, they say, okay, well, nothing actually happened. Good for us. But it's 2 or 3 months later, past the point at which it's been valuable. You could say the same about all these weapons platforms: tanks, fixed-wing aircraft, cluster munitions, the use of long-range ordnance inside Russian territory. All of that begets more escalation. Why did Ukraine invade Russian territory? Because it's absolutely terrified that the Biden administration and the West is going to sacrifice it, go to the negotiating table and say, let's freeze the lines of contact here, wherever they are. So Ukraine needs a negotiating tactic in that play. It needs to have the lines of contact in places that Russia will not accept. If Ukraine had more confidence in the administration, maybe it wouldn't have taken that course, but it doesn't. Likewise with Israel. Israel's no longer sitting around waiting for the Biden administration to green light its efforts to secure its own citizens and its borders. Right. It's acting on its own.
Yeah, but did the United States, did they have indications that Iran was going to strike?
Well, hours earlier, like hours prior, that's what I saw. I saw the United States and Israeli intelligence leaking to the public, or saying to the public on the record that this was coming minutes earlier. And you could detect that movement via satellite, say, okay, we have a lot of ordnance moving around here, and it's looking like they're refueling things, and this is go time. You can see that from space. And they may have shared that intelligence privately, but we certainly saw it publicly. But Israeli intelligence, it's good to have intelligence sharing relationships. The United States is a spectacularly efficient intelligence apparatus. But Israeli intelligence is pretty darn good, as we've seen for the last couple of weeks. So I don't think they're sitting around waiting for confirmation from Washington to see what Hezbollah is doing in southern Lebanon. They can see it themselves, and they have assets on the ground that confirm that as well. The overall picture, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just that the overall picture from this administration is one of indecision to a degree that emboldens our adversaries. And that seems like a really simple concept unless you've spent a lot of time, as unfortunately I have, in lecture halls, in graduate courses, in diplomatic institutions and talk shops, marinating in the argot of diplomat-ese. All these simple concepts become hopelessly elusive and very and kind of, frankly, a little naive to think that powers are emboldened by a lack of action on the part of their adversaries. They respond to more complex incentives like that. You have to talk yourself into these conclusions that otherwise don't really make sense in the real world to people who have lived experience with other human beings.
Well, sure, and you don't need a JFK School of Government advanced degree to be confused when Anthony Blinken says, on the one hand, that the $6 billion we turn over, just a portion of the money that we've given Iran or assets we've unfrozen, that's not going to be used to attack Israel. And then the other hand says that, hey, they prioritize whatever money they have for terrorist activities.
I like how Kristen framed it as, what do you make of the argument that money is fungible? So there's like a healthy debate around it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. So in terms of the larger debate, I thought that, and I don't know, maybe they did. I thought Vance and Walz may go outside after the debate and throw the old pigskin around. They got along pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they were very disciplined, both of them. It was not hard to see what they were trying to accomplish there, which is we have to soften our image with these voters, so we're going to be as soft-focused and as genteel and civil as we possibly can be, and worked. I came off. Both J.D. Vance was scintillating. He obviously outperformed his opponent, but on style points, I think you probably have to grade it right around even, because Tim Walz had to do the exact same thing and did it. I mean, he was excessively deferential. You talk to a Democrat this morning, and they're really depressed over his performance because they don't think he took it. He didn't take him to the mat,
right?
As much as they wanted to see. They wanted to see a combative, dismissive, hand gestury, very animated guy who would prosecute the case against January 6th, who would really prosecute the case against the cat ladies thing and the eating cats in Springfield. None of that happened, because that wasn't what the campaign's objectives was.
Right.
And you can tell that their objective was to make these people more palatable to the middle of America, people who might only see snippets of this debate in alternative news sources that none of us will ever see on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube, who knows?
Yeah, but
those are the voters who matter at this stage.
That cringy moment, I mean, when they asked him about his whereabouts, in Tenement Square, that was just probably the most uncomfortable I've felt as an American citizen watching a debate, whether it would be presidential or a VP debate.
Yeah, that was awful. And he should, who knows why he doesn't have a tight 30-second response on that one nailed down, because you knew that was going to come up in the debate. Interestingly, and unfortunately for the American voter, that was the first time China had been mentioned in any of these debates. Even the one with Joe Biden didn't come up very much. Joe Biden, I think, introduced the topic tangentially. But we haven't really talked about China in this campaign, and that was pretty much it. And it was about an event 40 years ago. Regardless, that was his worst moment in this debate by far, and that's probably one of those clips that'll be circulating. And it wasn't really that effective in neutralizing what has become something of a miasma around Tim Walz, that he's a fabulist, that he's a liar, that he makes stuff up in his history, or at least inflates and exaggerates his own history in ways that are untruthful.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's stuck to him yet, but this one might have the capacity to translate, to broader audiences and really make that impression kind of sticky.
Well, the majority of Americans didn't seem to mind that Biden spent 40 years as a fabulist. So I guess Tim Walz thinks he could probably get away with it. I don't know, but I agree with you. I think a lot of conservatives are properly impressed with Vance, and he showed that he is an intelligent guy who is very poised and he's very good. You would expect those things, and if you've watched Vance over even just the last few years, you've seen a lot of instances of this. So he knew what he was doing, but so did Walz, and the Walz thing is to make him Jim Belushi from According to Jim. He's like a sitcom dad. He's Coach Walz, and he just in case you didn't know, he wove it in through 5 or 6 answers, and it's to make him non-scary, non-threatening. It's Paul Simon with the bow tie. I mean, that's what he did, even though he clearly doesn't have the skill set that J.D. Vance does.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if, for those persuadable voters who are, kind of marginal and don't really follow the news that much, that impression sunk. Like he sunk the hook on that one. Just because he didn't take the bait either. They were very cordial, and that was great. I think that's actually, good in the abstract for American politics, that we don't see these people at each other's jugulars every day, all day. But if you were actually paying any attention to the substance, there wasn't a contest there.
Yeah, right.
J.D. Vance wiped the floor with Tim Walz. And it's not because he wasn't prepped. I mean, he has a lot of debate prep. You could tell he was very well prepared for this event. It's that they don't have answers for the questions that they're asked. The questions that they're asked are about policies that are, under Joe Biden, are failures or mismanagement or a product of a highly ideological commitment to a set of factors that aren't really evident on the ground and become very highly abstracted when you talk about them really quickly because they're otherwise, they're elusive and they exist in the minds of far left Democrats to whom this campaign has pandered. So it's not as though Tim Walz is a maladroit actor. He came off as maladroit on that stage because he's trying to sell a product that's defective.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning, middle, and end of it. This administration and its successor campaign are trying to retail things that are abject failures. So they're massaging them in ways that don't make a lot of sense, and they sound like a used car salesman because they're trying to pitch you a lemon.
Right, which is, right. They're talking about, growing up in rural Nebraska as opposed to, what the details of this vehicle are. Right. I mean, it was, and I thought Vance was right to make sure people who were not getting it got it when he explicitly said, my buddy Tim over here has a very tough job to do. He's trying to sell manure-smelling air freshener. And so I really feel for him. Noah Roth.
Just briefly, if I could.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why this was so cordial is because the fundamental distinction between Republicans and Democrats has been muted over the course of this campaign and earlier, and that is the fundamental role of government, whether government's intervention in private affairs is effective and desirable, and whether government is even capable of engaging in social engineering. That consensus exists across two campaigns. They disagree on the margins, but they both agree that government should be in the business of engineering society in ways they like. And that's why we see so few really raw distinctions on that debate stage.
It's an important and disturbing point from my perspective that you make, because I completely agree with that, which is why there was so much, me and Tim want the same thing. We're just trying to get to it from different ways. And, I agree with a lot of what Tim said. I agree with a lot of J.D. Vance said. It was troubling, actually. Noah Rothman, senior writer at National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Scott Bartmus, co-founder of ESCO, a security and fire alarm services business and a customer of Signature Bank. We work hard to give our customers peace of mind, so it's nice to know that while we have our customers' backs, partners like Signature Bank have ours. When COVID hit, there was a lot of uncertainty for many businesses, particularly surrounding the PPP loan program, with parameters and deadlines changing constantly. The executives from Signature Bank worked weekends alongside their staff, filling out and submitting applications to ensure they took care of us. That type of dedication is hard to find, but we found it with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Dan Proft here for Northridge Prep. Northridge Prep is a great place to be a boy. What does that mean exactly? In short, it's thanks to a foundation of an all-boys environment that builds your son up into a man of intellect and character who loves God. The teachers and faculty members become mentors to students. And when you combine that with an atmosphere that's fun, competitive, and challenging, it creates an exceptional experience for your son. And the result is that the boys just love Northridge. They've been educating boys for nearly 50 years. And one of the things that stands out to me is their commitment to partnering with parents. Now, you hear this a lot with schools, but at Northridge, the parents can't stop talking about it. They built a community that really works together. Raising kids is difficult these days, and at Northridge, you can be confident your son is on the right path. They're having an open house on Sunday, October 20th, for boys in grades 6 through 12. Register today at northridgeprep.org. Again, that's Sunday, October 20th. Register at northridgeprep.org.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
7:37, we'll talk about that longshoreman strike with Stephen Moore. That's 7:37.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
48 degrees. We get some sunshine this morning on AM 560, The Answer. And the search goes on for survivors in North Carolina. Towns devastated by flooding from Hurricane Helene. President Biden is scheduled to visit the region today, and groups of volunteers are bringing supplies in an old school way.
How do you get crucial supplies to communities where roads are impassable? One group does it with pack mules. The Mountain Mule Packer Ranch is hauling equipment, food, supplies, and even ice to keep life-saving insulin and other medicines cold, according to a Facebook post by the group.
Dump it into something. Oh, man.
The group has partnered with Louisiana's Cajun Navy 2016 to get the needed items to the mountains of western North Carolina, hitching up Vader, Jeb, Max, Smokey, and other mules to play their part in the recovery. Mountain Mule Packers ask for requests for specific items and say responses have poured in, so they're working on getting them there, one hoof at a time. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The Biden administration is backing U.S. dock workers on day 2 of a major longshoremen's strike. It's blocking everything from food to vehicles coming in at ports from Maine to Texas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Iran will pay for Tuesday's attack. Iran launching nearly 200 missiles toward Israel in retaliation for strikes in Lebanon that killed a Hezbollah leader backed by Iran. Police and scientists are working to try and identify bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in Wheatfield, Indiana. A suspect has been questioned and denied knowledge of any incident related to a backyard fire pit. Chicago police are investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. The incident happened yesterday at the 95th and Dan Ryan stop. One refused medical attention. The other is in good condition this morning. A 14-year-old boy severely hurt following a shooting on the South Side. Police say the child was found shot last night in the 7800 block of South Marshfield, rushed to a nearby hospital in critical condition. No arrests have been made in that incident. And the Illinois Attorney General's office has been forced to apologize to a federal judge, demanding answers after implying his ruling against the state's mass transit concealed carry ban has, quote, safety implications. The Northern District of Illinois federal judge Ian Johnston ruled the Second Amendment is violated by the state's prohibition of people carrying concealed firearms on mass transit. Another district court hearing is set for this afternoon. Blackhawks surrender 5 goals in the second period in a 7-2 preseason loss to the Wild in St. Paul at the X. The news is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. Check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager might have figured out the left-wing agenda.
There is a reason that the left-wing elites want vast numbers of people, legally or illegally, since it's clear that at a given number, you cease to be the country that you were. But that might well be the left-wing agenda.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Listen up. I'm talking to those of you who wake up day after day with joint pain in your knees, maybe your shoulder, ouch, maybe your hips. Hi, Amy Jacobson here, and let's talk about real, lasting relief. People here in Chicago are reducing the inflammation, getting mobility back, getting their lives back. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in cellular therapies. What's that? QC Kinetics uses your own body's healing properties in those achy joints. Cutting-edge treatments that require no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. You know, the choice is yours. You could continue with the steroids and daily medications, pursue surgery and a long recovery, or you could see if you're a candidate for regenerative treatments. Find out with your free consultation at QC Kinetics. New locations in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Saturday appointments available. You've got nothing to lose. Do it. 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Is thinning hair or a receding hairline making you self-conscious? Try Hair Grow from New Nordic. Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start feeling your best with Hair Grow.
7:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They've helped thousands. Crosscom, publicadjusters.com. North Riverside, Cermak and 13th report of an accident on the north side of Chicago, Sheridan and Thorndale. Report of an accident in the cleanup stages. Veterans has an accident. I-355 northbound is jammed up between Archer Avenue and the Des Plaines River Valley Bridge. And as you're traveling on the Tri-State this morning, fatal accident investigation continues. 2 right lanes are blocked and you're jammed up southbound on 294 between North Avenue to before Plainfield Road. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Nice day ahead, brilliant sunshine, and 73. Partly cloudy and 49. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. If you thought UAW boss Sean Fain or Teamsters boss Sean O'Brien, are they all named Sean?
Are they all?
If you thought that they had a poor bedside manner, if you were tired of listening to their, thuggish Workers of the World Unite routines, meet Harold Daggett. Harold Daggett is the boss of the International Longshoremen's Association. 45,000 strong who are on strike, as everyone knows at this juncture. Daggett, and by the way, everything I know about longshoremen, I learned from watching The Wire and reading Eric Hoffer. So I'm not saying I know a lot, but I do know math. Anyway, here's Harold Daggett talking about the strike and what's going to happen if the longshoremen don't get what they want.
These people today don't know what a strike is. Right. When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
Yeah, that guy, Harold Daggett, wasn't he in The Departed? Well, I don't know. But he makes about close to $1 million a year. He just sold his 76-foot yacht. He drives a Bentley. And he was acquitted on RICO charges. Get this, Dan. After the main witness against him, mobster Lawrence Ricci, was found decomposing in the car trunk in a car trunk in New Jersey.
Yeah, he'll rearrange your face for you and put you in a car trunk, too, as the case may be. Although we do live in an accident-prone society, so you never know.
Wow.
I understand. What Harold Daggett is rejecting, he rejected on Monday, a 50% wage increase over 6 years. The association is seeking a 77% increase over 6 years, to raise the base hourly rate for a dock worker to $69 an hour.
Anybody else getting that kind of raises?
I mean, I haven't seen numbers like that since I was looking at the CPS demands. I mean, who do these guys think they are? Chicago public school teachers?
$50 billion and 3 cents.
Something else, too, about the longshoremen and how the ports work, from somebody who knows more about this than just from watching The Wire, reading Eric Hoffer, that is involved in transactions that automate the ports.
That's what they're worried about.
He tells me one aspect of the strike no one will talk about has to do with automating the ports. In point of fact, there was a container handling operation that Harbor Freight built in Joliet back in 2020 that he describes as amazing. He also says all the ports in the U.S. have double-digit shrink, which means theft. The ports in New York and New Jersey are the worst in the world. Only about 80% of the loads make it to their destination. Wow, 20% of theft. That's quite simple. That's quite something. He goes on to say these union guys are geniuses at figuring out ways to steal goods, billions annually. If the ports were to be automated, it will reduce the labor demand. The big impact will be that automation will completely hamstring the black market network. The government has turned a blind eye to this, and guess who runs the ports and the unions? Well, some of Harold Daggett's former friends who found their way to a trunk. Anyway, this.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's well, I mean, watch The Wire actually, which it's dramatic, but I think there's a lot of truth to that season of The Wire that focuses on the port in Baltimore. Anyway, I mean, the larger discussion is about the crippling impact that Harold Daggett is intending to inflict on America, unless he gets his $69 an hour for his guys, so that they turn a blind eye to his yachts and Bentleys. For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist, author of the just released, pick it up, The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, which is co-authored with his buddy Art Laffer. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys. And by the way, Amy, I think you nailed it. This listening to your dialogue about what's happening with the ports, it's right. Maybe this is going to be Godfather Ford. Does Francis Ford Coppola have a new movie coming out?
No, he's making wine these days. Yeah.
But here is the thing. Look, I agree with everything you just said, Dan and Amy. But I think really, one of the big villains here, in addition to these dock workers who are really, by the way, you need $69 an hour these days to be able to afford to go to McDonald's. Don't you understand that? You guys, look, there is something called the Taft-Hartley bill, and I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like, I'm pretty libertarian. I don't like the government intervening in these kinds of things. But the truth is that what the Taft-Hartley bill says, when you've got workers that are in an essential industry for the commerce of the United States, that the government can intervene and keep these people on the job. And,
but maybe we slow walk. We're not doing 30 containers. We're doing 8 an hour. I got to take a break.
I get that.
Yeah,
I get that. But you're missing my point. Doesn't it seem like just in the last month or so, the wheels are just coming off in terms of every aspect? You got the crazy, the incompetent response to the hurricane in the southeastern states. Now you got the strike that's going to shut down the entire eastern seaboard. You got missiles going into Israel right now. It seems like there's just an incompetent administration. Now here's the thing.
Okay.
It would be in the interest of Joe Biden and especially Kamala Harris to get this thing over with, right? We're 4 or 5 weeks from an election, and you're going to have the whole commerce of the country basically disrupted by this union.
Well,
incidentally, it's only going to take 5 or 6 days before you see. You think inflation is bad now? Wait till you go to the grocery store and you're not going to have any, Cocoa Puffs on the shelves because of this strike.
So
it means
but here's the thing: is
What?
Biden going to fold, or will he be Reagan, or is he going to let the strike continue to hurt Kamala? Because deep down inside, he might not really like her.
Well, that's so funny you should say that, Amy, because some of my conspiratorialist friends say, Biden and Harris are not, they're not, they don't love each other. Let's just put it like that. So maybe he's trying to intentionally undermine her presidential bid. But what I'm telling you, this is like craziness. It's going to cause a lot of, he is right. What's his name again? The union president?
Harold Daggett. Yeah.
Don't forget it.
Daggett. What a great name. He's right. If you shut down those ports, it's going to cause a disaster. Now, another quick point, if I may. One of the things they're against is automation. That's like, typists saying, we can't allow computers. Computers, that's going to put us out of our jobs. We have some of the least efficient ports in the world. We're way behind China. We're way behind Europe in terms of the efficiency of our ports because they won't allow any kind of automation to go on. It's craziness. It adds to the price of everything. Yes, absolutely, we're going to automate our ports. I was just in, I think I told you guys last week, I was in Laredo, Texas, which is a huge port of entry for massive amounts of merchandise coming in from Mexico and other countries. Those trucks are lined up for 3 miles. I'm like, come on, there has to be a better way to do this through automation, and it ain't happening because of the unions.
All right, let's get your take on how J.D. Vance handles the debate generally yesterday, including the discussion on Trumponomics versus Kamalanomics.
Look, I think everybody agrees it was a fantastic performance. I'd give him an A-. I thought he was excellent, both in his persona and, he's a really smart guy, let's face it. And Tim Walz, I've kind of felt a little bit sorry for him. He was outgunned. And the problem for Tim Walz, frankly, is that, he's been a really bad plan. He has to sit there for an hour and a half and defend Bidenomics. And I thought one of the most effective things J.D. Vance did, and Republicans, if they want to win the election, have to say this over and over again. What is this? Have you guys noticed that Kamala in her speeches keeps saying it's time to turn the page? Turn the page. Yeah. They wrote the book. It's their book.
Well, they're acting like Trump is the incumbent and they're the incumbents.
I know, exactly. And so, I thought he was very effective at saying, look, you're complaining. Yeah, Americans do think everything's going in the wrong direction, and you've been in charge for the last 3 3/4 years. So how in the world is she going to turn the page with all these new policies when they've been in power for the 3.5 years, and they have done nothing on inflation? They've done nothing in terms of helping incomes. They've done nothing to control the border. So it's a leap of faith, to say the least, to think, oh, Kamala is going to come in and she's going to fix everything. And I thought he was very effective at that.
So this plan to unleash prosperity again that you co-authored with Art Laffer, does this have Trump approval, or are you going to get Project 2025'd?
I think it's so funny, by the way, that they keep bringing up Project 2025 because, frankly, I bet most Americans don't even know what Project 2025 is. But I will tell you one funny story. So Laffer and I went to see Trump, a couple months ago, and told him about the book and how it kind of what the book does is really compare the Biden performance on the economy with the Trump performance. It's very analytical. It just says, look, on every single measure, the economy, as J.D. Vance said very effectively last night, on every single measure, the economy was much, much better when Trump was president than it is now. And anyway, so he said, what are you going to call this thing? I love this. And the working title of it was Trumponomics 2.0, because we had written a book, 6 years ago called Trumponomics. He said, no, I don't like that. Call it the Trump economic miracle. That's how he came
Not grandiose enough. Yes, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he wrote the foreword to the book, and it just came out. It's like, you can get, by the way, you can get it on Amazon. It's like $13.95 or something. It's a short book. You can read it in 3 nights, but it really does lay out the case for, look, this is what happened under Trump. We did have an incredibly prosperous economy. This is what's happened under Biden. And people can make up their own minds. But to think that somehow, let me put it like this, to think that if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for change, you need your head examined. No, you're not. You're just voting for 4 more years of chaos.
Stephen Moore, economist and co-author with Art Laffer of the just-released The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity. Again, The Trump Economic Miracle. Pick it up at Amazon or wherever.
Before we go, can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah.
Sure.
For both you and Amy, I was listening to the Chicago News yesterday, and they were saying, there's negotiations going on between Brandon Johnson and the Chicago Teachers Union president. Who at the bargaining table is representing the taxpayers?
Yeah, well, yes.
Pedro,
yes,
the
right.
CEO.
That's one of those rhetorical questions I've heard so much about.
That's funny. That's cute.
I just think it's comical.
Yeah.
It's comical. And you've got 2 union representatives, basically bargaining on what the pay is going to be for the union.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Two wolves and the absent sheep deciding what to have for lunch. I got it. Steve Moore, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
See you guys. Have a great week.
Yep, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary.
Limited time left. Are you ready to seize a unique investment opportunity that could save you in taxes for 2024 and help you secure your financial future? Goldman Sachs predicts oil to remain in the $70 to $100 range. So why not invest in the uptrend now? That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you are an SEC-accredited investor with at least $100,000 in liquid assets, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's exclusive projects and a significant tax write-off for 2024. But hurry, there's limited time left this year to benefit from the incredible tax incentive. Imagine nearly 100% of your investment being deductible for 2024. Don't miss out on this limited-time opportunity to create monthly income for up to 20 or more years to come. Call 800-278-7455 now and connect to a knowledgeable Encore Energy representative. Encore is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call Encore Energy now at 800-278-7455. That's 800-278-7455.
Gosh, 33 days until the November election. And then after that, Thanksgiving. So this fall, don't forget your Balance of Nature supplements. A proud supporter of this radio station for 10 years. That turkey pumpkin pie ice cream aren't going to cut it. Your body needs fruits and vegetables to stay healthy, happy, and energized. That's why I've been supplementing with Balance of Nature for nearly a decade. It's so easy to open up those capsules and dust them over a salad or mix them into juice drinks or warm water. That's how I do it. And it makes you feel great. Thousands of AM 560 listeners love their Balance of Nature, and you will too. 6 capsules a day provides your body, heart, and mind with over 10 servings of 31 different whole fruits and vegetables. You'll love it. Your body, mind, and heart will thank you for it. Order your fruits and vegetables today, the supplements, by calling this number, 800-246-8751. Use coupon code Chicago to save 35% off your first set and free shipping when you sign up as a new preferred customer. 800-246-8751. Call now or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use coupon code Chicago to save 35%.
Rick Borick, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
When the stock market struggles, when inflation is high, you need to start looking through the inventory of all your accounts and say, is every one of these investments working as hard as it could be? Because every month during high inflation that you waste, you're losing 8 or 9% a year.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and our new time at 2 p.m. here on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, I'm Michael Alfaro, host of The Michael Alfaro Show. Join me each week as we tackle the issues you want to know more about, like foreign and national policies, how big money influences Washington, D.C., and so much more. Learn firsthand from elected officials and political insiders about the important policy decisions changing our world. Find me at michaelalfaroshow.com and then join me, Michael Alfaro, every Saturday evening at 7, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
I tell you, I get no respect. So I walk into a coin shop with silver bullion for sale when the owner says, "You look like you don't have 2 coins to rub together." I say to him, "Bullion." He orders me to quit cussing, tosses me out the door, and I land cheeks down on my 10-pound bullion bars. Ouch! My rear end is still black and blue.
You should have come to Fox Valley Coins, where we treat every customer with respect, buying or selling. Whether you're liquidating a collection to pay the rent or trading unwanted collectible coins, currency, and bullion for extra folding money, Fox Valley Coins is happy to see you. We also pay top dollar for scrap gold and sterling at Fox Valley Coins, the Midwest premier coin company. Open 6 days a week, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Check us out at foxvalleycoins.com. Over 40 years of family-owned integrity. That's foxvalleycoins.com.
I'd get my butt down there, but the doctor warned me to take it easy for a week. Oh.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
A showdown of the running mates. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment.
Tim Walz making the case against the former president.
Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China.
J.D. Vance countered in the CBS News vice presidential debate.
If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago.
And he blames the vice president for record illegal immigration.
You've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations.
The two also sparred over gun violence and threats to democracy, but agreed the U.S. must support Israel the day after Iran's missile barrage, and the fighting continues.
Israeli forces are confirming that at least 1 soldier was killed earlier today while fighting in southern Lebanon.
Fox's Trey Yingst also reports from Haifa, Israel. Hezbollah keeps firing rockets across the border. Crews are still out searching for people still unaccounted for in all of Hurricane Helene's devastation. There are at least 161 deaths in 6 states, and Fox's Tanya J. Powers reports.
3 of those are Megan Dry's son, Micah, and her parents, Michael and Nora Dry. They had all climbed to the roof of their Asheville, North Carolina home for safety when Megan says powerful floods tore through it.
I thought we were okay still until the house broke apart and until everything started to collapse. Devastation. I was terrified, but in that moment, all I thought about was being a mom.
All 4 were swept downstream. Megan was eventually rescued, but Micah's body was found about a quarter mile away. Megan says her grief is, quote, unfathomable, but told Fox she's thankful for the prayers she has received.
President Biden will get an aerial tour of the damage in North Carolina today. Vice President Harris will see storm damage in Georgia days after former President Trump went there. America's listening to Fox News. 48 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago police are investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. The incident happened yesterday at the 95th and Dan Ryan stop. One of the victims was slashed in the shoulder and rushed to a hospital in good condition. A 14-year-old boy is wounded following a shooting on the South Side. Police say the teen was found shot last night in the 7800 block of South Marshfield. The child was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. A 15-year-old boy is charged in the killing of a postal worker on Chicago's far south side. Octavia Redmond was shot July 19th and killed while on her route near 121st and Harvard. That teen suspect appeared in court yesterday on 1 count of first-degree murder. He was arrested Monday by CPD and U.S. Marshals in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The Blackhawks surrender 5 goals in the second period during a 7-2 preseason loss to the Wild in St. Paul at the X. Baseball home field, anything but an advantage in the opening round of the wild card playoffs as the Tigers beat the Astros. The Orioles dropped Game 1 to the visiting Royals. Mets blasted the Brewers in Milwaukee. Padres a home win over the Braves. The news, a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. 8:03, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. From the Fox Business Network, the latest on the markets this morning.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stock futures are losing ground as investors gauge the impact of tensions in the Middle East. The CBOE Volatility Index, the VIX, the market's fear gauge, has risen sharply. Changes are coming at Signet Jewelers, the parent company of Zales, Jared & Kay. Its CEO, Virginia Drosos, is retiring in November. She'll be succeeded by J.K. Samancic, who previously was CEO of PetSmart, though she will continue to serve as an advisor. British-based JD Sports Fashion is reporting an upbeat quarter. It's been expanding in the U.S. and recently completed its purchase of Hibbett. JD Sports says it doesn't expect any significant impact from U.S. port strikes because most of its products come in from the western part of the U.S. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk sees a secret weapon.
Donald Trump's secret weapon is not his rallies, it's not his base, it is the question of justice. What is just? And Donald Trump, in his own way, makes the argument that you, the citizen, should not have a lower standard of life so a foreigner can get freebies.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
This is David Hochberg with an emergency mortgage alert. If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. It finally happened. After 30 long and excruciating months, Fed Chair Powell just lowered interest rates a half a point, which means credit cards, car and home equity loans will be lower and less expensive. Most importantly, mortgage rates have dropped to their lowest levels since last February. The past 3 years have knocked out over 60% of our competition, who are back in the mall spinning pretzels and folding underpants. Team Hochberg's weathered the storm and is ready to help you, your friends, and family reduce your rate and monthly payments. If your interest rate is 7 or above, call Team Hochberg now. Not when you get home, not tomorrow, now for a complimentary mortgage review. 855-563-2843 or 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
It's 8:07. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. 90 minutes on the inbound Kennedy commute. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stop and go on the inbound Ike. Right now it is an hour and 40 minutes from 390 all the way into the old post office. You are heavy and slow through the avenues. Outbound Stevenson accident left shoulder. It's outbound between the Dan Ryan merge and Ashland. Delays on the Dan Ryan. Your stop and go inbound in the locals. Garfield to Roosevelt. 42 heavy minutes. 95th into the circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Lots of sunshine, a terrific day. High today at 73, mainly clear tonight with the low 53. Times of clouds and sun, a little bit warmer tomorrow, the high up to 80. Clouds will give way to some sun, a cooler day on Friday, the high 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
49 at O'Hare, 50 at Midway. Your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Springfield, Ohio was invoked in last night's vice presidential debate. And, of course, Walz was taking the position that any criticism of small communities like Springfield, Ohio being overrun by people in this country illegally or a combination of those in the country illegally and concentrated in a small community under a temporary protected status designation conferred by the federal government, they're being vilified, and that's wrong, and let's not be mean, essentially. J.D. Vance responded.
Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time. Well, neither of them do. And J.D. Vance left out one thing, the number of residents who have been criminally victimized by people in this country illegally or sanctioned by our federal government, who have been invited in through the open borders policy of this administration. Sticking on Springfield, Ohio, for example, this ABC affiliate in Columbus reporting.
Take a look at this body camera video. You see Hilliard officers running into the store.
This way? Okay.
Employees pointing police to the restroom where the victim's family was able to hold the suspect, Mohammed Kamara.
Lock your fingers, put your hands behind your back. You're being detained.
According to court records, Kamara was seen on store cameras following the 60-year-old victim until she enters the restroom. When she left the stall, Kamara was standing near the sinks. The victim questioned why he was there, and that's when police say he attacked, grabbing her throat, slamming her against the wall, and covering her mouth. But she was able to scream, getting the attention of her family, her son calling 911.
I mean, my mom was in there alone with him, so yes, he burst through the door to make him get off of my mom.
Okay. Do you guys know him, or is he just a random guy that approached your mom?
Just a random guy. My mom walked into the bathroom, and all of a sudden we heard screaming, yelling for my dad, and luckily we were close, and so my dad went and burst in there because my mom was screaming for help.
These are the stories that the Trump campaign needs to do a better job, in my opinion, of platforming over the last 4.5 weeks of the campaign, is just letting people tell their stories or amplifying stories that are being reported by the press, the few that are, mainly locally, certainly not coming out of the D.C. press corps, particularly against the backdrop of those numbers that were released by the ICE acting director of ICE to Representative Tony Gonzalez that we have been discussing all week, of the number of people who are convicted criminals in this country legally, roaming about freely, the number of people who are under criminal charges and in this country legal who are roaming around freely. These stories need to be told. These are not partisans. They're just everyday Americans. And I think they're probably more persuasive than the politicians are.
Well, Dan, why don't you think why didn't J.D. Vance bring that up about the number of convicted murderers, convicted sex offenders, convicted kidnappers that are here?
Yeah, I think you worry about, you're saying that they're all criminals, and there's a very easy response to that. In fact, you could preempt such a silly accusation. Say, look, right, when you allow 10 million people in, you're going to get people who
aren't the best.
Well, you're going to get people from a lot of different angles. You're going to get known gangbangers from Venezuela, as we've seen. You're going to get people that are coming to build a better life for themselves and their family, and they want to be here, and that's fine. And they're otherwise law-abiding, and that's fine. But there's still a process you have to do legally. But I'm not. I mean, I'm not saying that it's everybody or it's even the majority. But again, a small percentage of 10 million people can be a huge problem. And all you have to do is listen to the stories of people showing up at their local village board meetings, being unfortunately profiled on local news because they've been victims of crimes. That's all you have to do. This is completely commonsensical. And anything short of this is nonsensical. And if Tim Walz or Kamala Harris would like to respond to that 60-year-old woman in Springfield, Ohio, we'd all like to hear it, for example. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Chris Clem, former Yuma Sector Border Patrol Chief. Chris, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Boy, y'all covered a lot of stuff there, some really good stuff. Can't wait to jump into it.
Well, please do. Jump in. I mean, how did you think the discussion last night between the two candidates went?
Well, I got to say it was probably one of the more civil debates we've seen in a while, and easy to understand. But clearly, Senator Vance was on top of his game for sure. I just want to kind of mention a couple things that you just said. Look, it took only 19 hijackers changed the world on September 11th, just like it took just that one person to change that 60-year-old woman's life for the rest of her life and her family. It only takes one. So, yeah, when you're looking at these 400,000 criminals that have been around and been released and murderers and rapists, this is the story we've been telling. But I thought that Senator Vance made very clear points in bringing it back to the American people and the economy and the impacts, because the left, especially the Harris campaign and Walz, and even what's left of the Biden administration, have been ignoring this, and they keep going back to, well, you had a chance with the Senate bill. They keep blaming that, and I among other things, the people need to hear the truth about that Senate bill and why it was never passed the Senate and why it was going to be dead on arrival at the House.
Well, and just on that point, too, I mean, it's always, Trump directed and so on and so forth. No, what would actually happen, I mean, I'll get your perspective on it, but from, what we witnessed was what actually happened is people revolted once they started hearing what the particulars were, and they put a lot of pressure on their duly elected Republican representatives in the House and the Senate to walk away from it.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right, because but let's start with the House. The House actually passed the bill and sent it to the Senate. That was a border security bill. That was the toughest bill I'd ever laid eyes on. Schumer didn't do anything with it. But you're right, because when the public saw the text of that before it got moved around, let's a couple things out here. Zero mentions of child and human trafficking and how we're going to stop that. But there was $1.4 billion of your taxpayer dollars directed to the NGOs to service and shelter inadmissible migrants. It actually prohibited spending money on the technology, enforcement technology from the previous border bill that had been passed back in 2020. It directed the release of certain aliens. Like they keep on saying it was ending catch and release. It actually is in the bill that a certain class determined by the secretary would be released and provided work authorization. That impacts citizens' job opportunities as well as the legal residents. And then, again, it directly in the bill, it says no less than 1,400 people a day, inadmissible aliens, will be allowed in through the CBP-1 Act. No less than 1,400 inadmissible aliens would be allowed in a day through the CBP Act. And then the enforcement authorization, the authority that was going to be so big that was going to shut it all down, had a sunset in 3 years after the bill if it was enacted. So this wasn't the perfect plan. It was a terrible bill, and I'm glad it was dead on arrival on the House, and I'm glad the Senate stepped up and never even passed it. So that's what your audience, and that's what people need to talk about, because they keep saying, oh, it was Trump. No, it was a terrible bill. So sorry to take up some time on that.
Well, but there's also
highlights of why bad it is.
Nothing to deport illegals. Taxpayer-funded lawyers to illegals. And then there was no immediate wall funds either. So, I mean, that's really why it didn't pass. And the performance last night of J.D. Vance and Mr. Walz, do you think J.D. Vance owned him?
Look, I think he did. I mean, it was a tale of two representatives, if you will. I mean, I just the demeanor just showed who was confident and who knew what was going on and who was ready to lead at a moment's notice versus jazz hands over there from Minnesota. So just completely different people.
Can you address the CBP-1 app, the TPS, Temporary Protected Status program that became a source of such controversy last night that Margaret Brennan and Nora O'Donnell had to cut J.D. Vance's mic. But we hear about it. Well, these, for example, the Haitians under temporary protected status, they're here legally, government sanctioned. But that's not the end of the discussion. That's the beginning. For how long? What is the history of the program? Is there corruption within the program in terms of people essentially using TPS? I mean, people saying the politicians in D.C. using TPS as a backdoor way to essentially permanent status in this country. Your understanding of that application as well as those designations.
Yeah, so temporary protective status traditionally, and again, there's been all the traditions thrown out the window under this administration, were for people, non-citizens that were here in the United States, pretty much regardless of status, that could not go back to their homeland for whatever reason, whether it was a natural disaster, political uprising, a war. So if you were from, in this case, we're talking Haiti, if you were here from Haiti, and your visa had expired or you had entered here illegally and they had designated, instability and some kind of problem in Haiti, and we know that their president was assassinated, there was the earthquake, they were not going to deport you back to Haiti for this temporary time. We've seen that play out oftentimes in Central America when they get hit with hurricanes and landslides, the airports are closed down. That is what TPS was designed for. It's like, all right, well, you're already here, regardless, and we can't send you back because there's a temporary reason why. Now, it was never designed, it was never intended for you to cross illegally to then claim TPS, because if that was not the purpose of it. And so that's what's happened a lot with this particular TPS they offered the Haitians, because we had so many of them enter illegally. They said, well, we're going to let you stay here. And it actually is very destabilizing because you're picking and choosing which country you're going to protect. And so that sends like a complete wrong message on how our immigration system works. And so, I get it. There are reasons we want to provide that protection, but when they're, again, abusing what it was intended for, it was limited in scale, and now they're using it as a blanket, a free-for-all for people from Haiti. And by the way, the majority of the people from Haiti that have entered illegally left the island many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just get on a plane from Port-au-Prince and fly to Mexico and come in. They were been in South America for years. You got to go back to the Brazil, the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. They brought a lot of men in to help rebuild because this was post earthquake Haiti, and they had been domiciled and working their way up the United States for the last few years. So this TPS is a little abused on the CBP One app. You know, it is 2024 technology. Everybody is connected. It's not a bad thing. But here's what they've got going on here: is you go on to this app and you just put in your basic information and set a schedule for a hearing. Well, I want to take a bite at the apple. You can be in Timbuktu and apply on this app. You show up to a designated port, and the port officer will verify your ID with what you put in the app, and you're released in for the hearing, whenever that hearing may be. That is ridiculous because they're not doing any screening or vetting. They're not verifying. It's just if you didn't show up as a hit and you show me the ID, that's the same number you got and the same screens like getting a mobile ticket to go to a concert, and they're being let in. Just to add insult to injury to all that, it's taken about 200,000 man-hours a month for our CBP port officers who normally would do inspections and processing cargo and legitimate trade travel. They're spending 200,000 man-hours a month processing these people in off of this parole app, and it is mind-boggling that we are allowing this. Not against technology, but straight out of the gate with this and watching it, cause the problems. Look, in July, I don't have August numbers, but from July when they were saying that border numbers were so low, they let in 47,000 people. 47,000 people were let into the country in July because they used the CBP One app. These people were inadmissible, would not be allowed in any other way, but they let them in, and they all going to get a bite at the apple down the road with their first hearings, which could be months or years down the road.
Incredible. I mean, it's just incredible. And so, that one of the big unanswered questions right now, maybe you have insight on this, is how do we get concentrations of thousands of people from wherever they're from? It really doesn't matter. Thousands of people just sort of airdropped into small communities like Charleroi, Pennsylvania, and Springfield, Ohio, and Whitewater, Wisconsin, and Fairhope, Alabama, and so on and so forth. How does that happen? Who is the shot caller? These local officials can't seem to get answers. State officials who are actually seeking them can't seem to get answers. How does that happen?
Well, it really comes down top down from the executive, from the White House to the Department of Homeland Security, and since it's interior, it would fall on our Immigration and Customs Enforcement, our ICE enforcement removal operations, and their Homeland Security investigations to really deal with these individuals, these pockets, to make sure that they are monitored, they're detained, or they're removed if necessary. I mean, kind of leading into, as President Trump has mentioned, if he gets back in office, he's going to, do this mass deportation. And again, we've got to be very strategic with that. We have to go after those with the removal orders that have already been through the judicial process and were deemed deportable. We need to go after the ones that are criminals. And the state and locals know that. But here's the biggest thing, and this is how we start cleaning up and getting the immigration system cleaned up in the interior, is you end sanctuary city policies and you get cooperative city policies. That means the state and local and municipal law enforcement will work with federal government, because every one of your beat cops, every one of your sheriff's deputies, they know where these people are. They're just prohibited by their sanctuary policies to take any action. And even if they did, ICE may not even come in, because ICE would be prohibited based on higher level authorities to even deal with certain.
I get, right. I mean, that's good. That's all helpful perspective. But I mean, just on this, I mean, somebody is making the decision, is green lighting, dropping 1,000 people into a 4,000 person town, and just throwing the whole place up for grabs. And so again, how does that occur? Is it a combination of local officials, big local employers who are sponsoring a lot of people to come because they need workers and they prefer cheaper labor? Or what? I mean, what is the dynamic to the extent you know?
Yeah. I may have missed your question on when you first asked it. That's usually definitely coming down from the Secretary of Homeland Security. He's the one that's controlling the movement. It's his authority. So he's controlling this through either his decisions and the latitude given to him, or directly from Domestic Policy Council director, i.e. the vice president or the president, right? So it's coming from one of those four people. And then they're working directly with state and local liaison through non-government organizations and saying, hey, you want to take some of these people? We'll move these people over here. So the local community, when you go to a town hall and you're sick of it, it's somebody in your community has allowed it. And then whether it's your mayor, whether it's somebody that's close to the politicos and the bureaucrats in D.C., that's where you follow that money train. Why is would 20,000 people be dropped into a city of 40 or 60,000? Somebody agreed to that. Somebody in Springfield, Ohio, needs to come clean, or somewhere in the state of Ohio needs to come clean, and why they agreed to that, because 20,000 Haitians didn't show up on their own. Somebody had to allow that, and that plays out everywhere. It's usually state and local governments that are connected very closely to the White House that are agreeing to help this to keep. It's like sweeping it under the rug, right? If we have somebody working with us, it won't look as bad. And that's kind of what happened. This played out under Obama, Biden with the unaccompanied children, when we had hundreds of thousands of them show up in 2013 and 14. They were just placing these kids in these family units everywhere. That was an ally to the Obama-Biden administration. So the check and balance comes from the citizenry holding their local officials accountable and getting somebody to confess that they agreed to this. Because, again, they just didn't look on the map. Somebody opened the door for them.
No, it's very helpful because, of course, you get the finger pointing with everybody covering their ass, and so nobody knows where to go. So that's very instructional. Chris Clem, former Yuma Sector Border Patrol Chief. Chris, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You guys have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Donald Trump Jr. here. Since January of 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but you can stop your losses by diversifying into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. That's SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit from Birch Gold now.
Message and data rates may apply. Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only two good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
From the best-selling author of Wonder and the creators of Jesus Revolution comes Whitebird.
I'm sure your father has told you stories about when I was a young girl.
Hope can lift you.
You stay with us, okay?
Courage can save you.
You're the bravest person I've ever met.
Love can free you.
When kindness can cost you your life, it becomes like a miracle.
From the director of Finding Neverland, Whitebird. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters October 4th. Tickets and showtimes at whitebird.movie.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
How did J.D. Vance handle the abortion issue last night's debate? We'll put that question and others to Penny Nance, the president and CEO of Concerned Women for America, at 8:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
50 degrees and sunshine in Chicago. President Biden, by the dawn's early light, surveying flood damage in western North Carolina today. Republican Senator J.D. Vance and Democrat Governor Tim Walz argued policy differences during last night's VP debate, heard right here on AM 560. The CBS debate saw senior advisor Jason Miller talking with Fox this morning, believing Senator J.D. Vance had a strong performance.
He made sure to reintroduce himself to voters, maybe didn't watch the convention speech, who haven't been paying that much attention, people who are undecided or independent who are tuning in to say, who's actually going to do something about the economy? Who's going to speak to me? And I think J.D.'s background, his relatability, helps deliver that message from President Trump.
Governor Walz tried to promise steady leadership by Democrats on the issue of foreign policy. The Biden administration backing U.S. dock workers on day 2 of the longshoremen strike. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst this morning calling on the White House to do more in the Middle East after Iran launched 200 missiles at Israel.
What I have heard from leaders all around the globe, and in particular the Arab leaders in the Middle East, they have been asking, where is American leadership?
The Biden-Harris administration is pushing for a ceasefire. New York City Mayor Eric Adams back in federal court today for a hearing all connected with federal corruption charges aimed at him. Police and scientists are working to identify bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in Wheatfield, Indiana. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the discovery was made a Monday after authorities began digging into a report last month that an individual confessed to killing 2 undocumented children and then burning their bodies. Chicago police continue investigating after 2 women were attacked at a Southside CTA Red Line station. The incident happened yesterday. At the 95th and Dan Ryan stop, 1 woman is hospitalized in good condition. And a 14-year-old boy was wounded following a shooting on the South Side. Police say the teen was found shot last night in the 7800 block of South Marshfield. The child taken to the hospital in critical condition. Blackhawks lost to the Wild in the NHL preseason 7-2. The news is a service of Balance of Nature, fruits and veggies in a capsule. Save 35% off your first preferred order with promo code Chicago. Order online at balanceofnature.com. Use coupon code Chicago to save 35%. Hurry, offer ends soon. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk says it's time to get tough.
One thing that a Nebraska senator told me was, he said, well, the Democrats wouldn't do this to us. That's what he said. I said, well, hold on. First of all, who do you think you're dealing with? What Democrat party? Just to be very clear, my voice issues are disguising my anger.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a doctor myself. I've used it, and I've turned a lot of my patients onto it as well. It's a good product.
I've actually taken the bottles up to him, and my doctor, he tells me, keep doing it.
I am 87 years old, and I am an RN. My PhD work is in anatomy and physiology. I watched your advertisement on TV, and I thought, I'll try it for just a month. I have stayed on it. Just think it is a marvelous product.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This is Carol Platt Liebau for townhall.com. This November, our First Amendment right to free speech is on the ballot. At a World Economic Forum panel last week, former Secretary of State John Kerry said the quiet part out loud. He hates the free speech social media allows. Here's what he said.
They're putting out disinformation. Our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
Kerry's not alone. For elites, free speech is a problem because it makes it impossible for them to impose their narrative on the rest of us. Kamala Harris shares Kerry's contempt for the First Amendment. Her deputy campaign manager worked for Biden, forcing social media companies to censor COVID information. As Attorney General of California, she lobbied the then CEO of Twitter to kick Donald Trump off the platform. Remember, the freedom to speak is the freedom to think, and vote accordingly.
8:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center Time is a service of Discover. Time with family, laugh with friends, and cash back. Well, Discover's got you covered on that last one. That's because Discover doubles all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card. The Kennedy right now has fallen under 90 minutes, 85 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Heavy and slow, 80 minutes on the inbound Ike, 390 into the old post office. And big delay still on the Tri-State southbound from the Wisconsin state line all the way down to the Bishop Ford. It's because you have two right lanes blocked because of a fatal traffic accident a couple of hours ago, but the investigation continues. And the isolated spot where the accident is Grand Avenue curve to right before Plainfield Road. That's where the major heavy delays are this morning, southbound on the Tri-State. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sunshine in 73 today, clear, and 53 overnight. Mostly sunny and 50 right now. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, of course, abortion was a topic that was discussed in last night's vice presidential debate. And it sort of focused on two areas. Tim Walz talking about Donald Trump's abortion bans, as you would expect, and providing an anecdote that has been debunked, but certainly wasn't going to be challenged by Norah O'Donnell or Margaret Brennan, about a Georgia woman who died after having an abortion, and Amber Thurman, and then J.D. Vance challenged Tim Walz's extremism on abortion as per Minnesota state law on the topic.
Senator? May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Well, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, the Obama administration, Joe Obama terms 1 and 2, they had no problem targeting the Little Sisters of the Poor over Obamacare mandates. So why would they have a problem with Catholic hospitals? And frankly, a lot of Catholics wouldn't. But here's the thing. First of all, on the Minnesota state law, the Daily Signal, which is an outlet of the Heritage Foundation, looked at several years of data from the Minnesota Department of Health. At least 8 babies who survived abortions and were thus born alive were left to die. In fact, during the narrow time frame of January 2021 through December of 2021, 1 year, 5 babies were born post-abortion operation. And of those 5 infants, no one tried to save the first baby, who was born with fetal anomalies, died thereafter. The second and third babies were given unspecified, quote-unquote, comfort care measures on their first and last birthdays. Neither baby survived. The fourth and fifth babies were deemed pre-viable, which is defined as the stage of fetal maturity where there's a much lower probability of survival outside of the uterus. But the range of that is shifting thanks to technological advances. Regardless, no efforts were made to save either baby. So those are actual cases that were legal under Tim Walz's regime in Minnesota because, of course, there were no prosecutions related to any of the conduct with respect to those institutions or the individuals who made those decisions. On Amber Thurman, J.D. Vance should have corrected the record when he said, I'm sorry, Amber Thurman died. She shouldn't have died.
Because the policies that they put in place is the reason why she died.
Well,
because that medical abortion pill was mailed out on a federal level, and that's why she died. She had no information about the harmful drug.
Well, it was 2 things. She did get mifepristone and took the regime associated with that abortifacient. And then she had complications, and it was negligence at the hospital where she presented symptoms because she still had fetal remnants in her system and it was infecting her. They essentially made an improper diagnosis and gave her antibiotics when another procedure would have been appropriate. And any, as has been discussed, any sort of first-year med student would have known this. It's argued. But anyway, she got the abortion and the abortifacient she wanted. She had the abortion. She presented complications. She went to the emergency room. They diagnosed it. It had nothing to do with pro-life laws. It had to do with abortion drugs and medical malpractice. Yep. And that should have been made clear by J.D. Vance. The other thing that he did when talking generally about this, and he made this sort of expository offering on being pro-life and pro-family, from, more holistically, to borrow a favorite Kamala Harris word. And essentially said, Republicans have lost the trust of many American women. And he reflected on the referendum, a pro-abortion referendum that passed in Ohio, and that was a real message sender, or the people of Ohio took a position different than J.D. Vance's. And so they need to do more, the Republican Party, he said, need to do more to sort of win the hearts and minds. And I agree with that. But It felt a little too apologetic for me, and I would have liked a little bit more of the jujitsu we saw from J.D. Vance on other issues like immigration. For more on the topic and others related to the all-important and layered female vote on November 5th, please be joined by Penny Nance, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America. Penny, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, my honor, Dan and Amy. I'm so glad to be on with you today, and I'm glad I got to hear that exchange that you offered a lot of really good information there for your listeners that most people don't know. Could I add just a couple of points there to what you've already said? Number one, you were talking about 8 babies died in Minnesota in 2021, January to December. They changed the law after that to make them stop reporting. So we don't even know how many babies have died as a result of the fact that when they're born in a botched abortion, they leave them to die. And that is barbaric. And certainly I would agree, I would also have said, if I were J.D. Vance, that's also barbaric practice. In a late-term abortion specifically, the dismemberment that happens to a baby in utero, there's nothing compassionate about that. And so what I always do when I'm talking about the issue, I'm debating the issue, I establish right up front. We're talking about 2 people. We're talking about the mother, but we're also talking about a baby who also has rights, who should have rights. And so I love J.D. Vance. I'm a fellow hillbilly from Appalachia. I endorsed him. But the other side has used this issue as a cudgel. I also wanted to mention for your listeners, and most people don't know this, and this is really just tip of the spear. When we're talking about Ohio and Kentucky and these state ballot initiatives, Melinda Gates gave $1 billion to the abortion industry. That's just one person. We are so outfunded by the other side, and people are like, why haven't you done more? Well, we're doing everything we can. I truly believe over time, now that we have lifted the heavy hand of the judicial branch, and we can actually have a conversation on a state-by-state basis, like for instance in Illinois, your law allows abortion. Nothing changed up until viability. Post-Roe, Illinois is exactly the same. Some states became more pro-life, states like Texas and Oklahoma. Some states became up to birth, like Minneapolis and California and New York and New Jersey. So, it's a really tenuous, difficult issue. I 100% agree and have talked directly to J.D. Vance about one of our top issues, which is creating something called life.gov, which puts online searchable by zip code and state all the resources that is available to a woman who's in a difficult situation of pregnancy, trying to decide what to do, worried. So she knows what resources are right now already available to her, public, private, legal and housing and health care and job resources and educational grants, all the things that are available. We spend $1 trillion a year in our country on social services. Why can't she find out about that? I would argue the other side doesn't want her to know. And so that's something we're working on. And Marco Rubio has introduced the bill in the Senate, and Diana Harshberger, who's a member from Tennessee, has introduced it in the House. We're moving it forward, and I truly believe in the next year, especially if President Trump wins, that'll be something we'll be able to get done. But we have to take this issue, explain this issue, use the science that we know, that the fact that J.D. Vance talked about 15 weeks. That was really where the conversation has been on a federal level. At 15 weeks, any woman that's had a baby knows that that little baby has all her major organs, can hear and respond to her mother's voice, and can feel pain. There's pictures of her sucking her thumb. This is a child. People that care to know that, and that's an important distinction for people to understand and know. But they talk about us wanting federal law. They want federal law. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are in favor of federal law that strike down any prohibition around the country. That's what they want to happen. They want every state to be California. And so I wish that he had made that point as well.
Well, when we talk about women, women are the most coveted voter bloc in America, and more women have voted than men in presidential elections since, I think you wrote in your piece, 1980. With that said, in these swing states, is there anything else that we could persuade them to care about than just abortion?
Oh, my gosh. Listen, I just got back from being a 10,000-mile bus tour in 12 battleground states all over the country talking to women. And I have to tell you that abortion only came up when we brought it up. That is not the first thing they're thinking about. They're very worried about their own economic situation. They know they're worse off than they were 4 years ago. They know they have less money in real wages. They have less money in their bank account at the end of the month than they had before. And they know that inflation's gone up at least 30%, sometimes more in some food and other resources they need. They're worried about that. And also safety, public safety. And then the other issue that I think has so much power, and I wish that Republicans would talk about it more, and they should, and even the down ballot races. And that is, women are furious that the other side is denying the unique dignity of women, that they're allowing boys into girls' locker rooms, into their safe spaces, in their restrooms, on their sports teams, all the young women who have worked so hard in whatever sport that they're, achieving in and have given up so much, like Macy Petty on our staff, who is a volleyball player and is put head-to-head with a boy that's physiologically advantage over her. And so we're starting to see movement from that in schools that are saying we're not going to play against a team that is platforming a young man against women. There's legal liability because there have been so many injuries. And women are furious about that. I wish that the Republicans would talk more about it.
I mean, women are always talked about as a monolith, and of course they're not. It's a lot more complicated than that. It's complicated across education level. It's also complicated as it pertains to marriage, and the real deficit that drives the overall deficit Republicans have with women is single women, and particularly single college-educated women. So what do we do about single college-educated younger women?
Well, I think you have to talk to them with respect, and you've got to actually share with them why that it makes a difference for their future. I mean, college-educated women are entering the workforce, and they are providing. They're providing for their families, and they want a future. Most of them, even though the other side tells us it's not true, the vast majority of them want to get married when you look at the numbers. And so you want to talk to them about what that means and what that looks like as a family and providing for a family. They want to buy a home. And just explaining to them basic economics that just like with college education, when the government floods the market with money, that means everything costs more. So a well-intentioned policy of giving a new homeowner $25,000 only means the homes all go up, and usually more than $25,000. And so actually helping them to understand the real policies of economics and speaking to them with the respect that they deserve, and not taking for granted that just because there's a woman running, and I think that women find this offensive, and they should, that we don't care about the policy, it's another woman, therefore we're going to vote for her. That is a lie. If that were true, then Hillary Clinton would have been elected president. Clearly that's false.
Well, it's true. I mean, many of those single women are going to get married, some even to men.
Oh, I
know. And so,
Dan, you better watch out.
Yeah, there's that opportunity, I suppose. Penny Nance, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America. Penny, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560. The Answer.
October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. As the leader in identity theft protection, LifeLock reminds you to update your passwords. Using the same password across multiple accounts makes you vulnerable to cyber criminals. Updating your passwords is only one way to help protect yourself. For comprehensive identity theft protection, you need LifeLock. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes issues that arise. Start protecting your identity today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY.
I don't like onions. I'm doing paleo. Do they have gluten-free bagels? You can't juggle every food request for a work event, or can you? EasyCater is the all-in-one tech platform that makes it easy to get restaurant catering for work, with options for any group size, taste, dietary preference, or budget. EasyCater saves your favorite restaurants and orders, which makes reordering a snap. Need to modify an order? No problem. So when it comes to food for work, make it easy on yourself with EasyCater. Start your order at easycater.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
I think one of the things that patients don't realize is that when they get a joint replacement, that's not a lifetime treatment option. And they're probably, if they are a younger patient, signing up for multiple surgeries down the road.
As a physician and medical director for QC Kinetics, Dr. Caravelli's seen a pattern of trending joint pain. Prolonged medication, steroids, then surgery, possibly another surgery.
So a lot of our patients are trying to avoid or put off surgery, and this is the treatment that can help them do that.
QC Kinetics extracts your body's healing substances, concentrates them back into your aching joints to help heal and restore those areas, providing lasting relief.
Oh, I love being able to tell my patients, before we do this surgery, let's try another option. Let's see if this is right for you, because now they might not have to have surgery at all.
Call today for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
AM 560, The
Answer. All right. Thanks a lot for participating in our post-VP debate. Thanks to Justin Kosick and Quinn McCarthy. Couldn't do it without them. Have yourselves a wonderful day. It's going to be nice, sunshine, a high of 73, and then tomorrow, summer again, a high of 80. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
Bone fragments found in the backyard of a home in northwest Indiana. A teen is charged in the deadly shooting of a postal worker, and the Blackhawks lose to the Wild. WIND Chicago News Time, 9 o'clock.
More Israeli troops are moving into Lebanon. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. While Hezbollah keeps firing rockets across the border.
And the Israeli army confirming that a